It always comes back to Ben. Going back to Ben, if Ben is able to score points late in the game, we are able to put a defender in like Matisse Thybulle in. If you can't take Seth Curry off the court, if it's impossible to take him off the court because he's such a good scorer, it comes back to Ben. Ben's not a scorer. He literally can't score in the fourth quarter.
All right, but we're in it, okay? Britt's had to blur out his background, but we're in it. We're ready to go now. So, yeah, who's trying to get in? So, welcome back, fans of Philly Escape Podcast. This is episode 9. We're talking about our pain from Game 7 and the Sixers-Hawks series. So we'll give you our reactions, our pain, everything that we felt during the game, series grades, the future of the 76ers, and I hope you guys showed up today. Bring your A game because we're going to do a Ben Simmons battle. And I'll tell you what that means and how it works, what the game's going to be.
Be a 1v3.
But no, it could be. It might turn in that way. I don't think so. I think it'll be 2v2. You know who against who.
The docket might have to go too.
I was going to
we'll change it up once Eagle season's coming. But it's been one hell of a ride. Obviously, this season's come to an end with Game 7 loss at home against the Atlanta Hawks, 103-96. It wasn't even close at the end there, guys, right? I mean, we had no heart. We had no way of coming back. I think from the series overall, we lost in Game 4. The Hawks seemed to have that energy and carried it all the way through. And we just wanted to cry. We just felt... Game 4, yeah, where the ball started rolling. So I just feel like the Sixers were scared of losing to the Hawks, and the Hawks were just like getting pumped up, like, let's do this, we can win. Like, actually hype about the fact that they're in the playoffs and that they can make it to the next round. So Game 7 breakdown, right? Ben's still missing in action, still looking for his aggression, still looking for his free throws that we're never going to get. But as you can see, I'm not even talking stats on this game. I'm not even talking about any heroes because we're just one big loser in this Philadelphia 76ers team. So,
yeah. I mean, not much else you can say about the Game 7 other than that we came out flat as all hell. Flat
to be honest,
flat as could be.
It felt like we were going to come back, to me at least, up until like the very end. Like, and I know Embiid said in his interview he felt like it like sort of all changed when Ben Simmons, he could have gone up for the dunk and he passed it off. And really, honestly, for me too, like I did feel like we could come back at any moment. It just didn't happen. It was depressing.
At least not in this game. I just felt like it was another one of those games where it was like, let's just hold on to a possible lead. Let's just hold on. Let's just not let's go out and get it. Like, we're confident we can get the win. Let's just do what we do. We're the Philadelphia 76ers. Nobody can beat us. I feel like they didn't have that mentality. I think the Hawks had that. We can do whatever. I mean, you saw Gallinari pumping up his team, like on the sidelines there, like really getting into it. You didn't even feel that from the 76ers since Game 4. I mean, I know you had some sparks in between, Maxey coming in, doing his thing, but just from the camera angles, sideline to sideline, like it was just a different vibe on each side completely.
To be fair, though, it's kind of tough to be like hyped up and like all amped up when you're down bad. Like you're supposed to win a series 4-1, and you're like,
but that's the mentality they had, and they never changed it.
I know, but like when you're in the process of blowing it, it's tough to get hype about like currently blowing it. You got to turn it around and then get hype. They
the
just weren't able
Hawks
to turn
swooped
around.
in like Death Eaters, dude, and they took us by the cheek and they sucked the confidence right out of our soul, and they took it and they rode with it. They got 2 wins at home, at our home, Like, how does that happen? We
Make
were
it
one
3.
of the best home teams, yes, but two wins at home in a vital part of the game. At the last 3 games of the series, we had 2 at home, and they came in and made it their house, dude, and they walked right over our Sixers logo, and they just put a dagger right in the city's heart.
Well, I would
Reinhardt's-
absolutely agree that like the vibe just did not feel. It felt like a Game 7 like in Atlanta for our team. There was no point where like we went in and we're like we're playing balls to the
No,
wall. We're
we were
giving
on
it
the
our everything.
ropes from game 1 this series. I feel like at no point did we have a legitimate lead. Even when we were up 2-1, it was an uncomfortable 2-1.
Well, I felt like in Game
Well,
6
no,
when we
I
were
don't know
down
about
like
that.
in
Yeah,
Game
you're
6
right.
we went
Yeah,
in,
we were super hyped actually.
and then Game 7 comes around. It's just not the same intensity as Game 6.
So then, yeah, it was definitely that game 4 then.
Because I mean, we were coming out of the 2-1 lead, and we felt really good. Like that was only 2 episodes ago, I think, guys, where we were hyped. We were like, all right, Sixers closing it out in 5. Like original predictions, maybe 6 games. We all predicted 5 after that, after the 2-1.
Oh yeah.
And we felt it. Like we felt pretty hyped. Like we could just go out and continue shooting 60%,
Well, it's because it was domination
60%
for
from the
those 2
field.
games. Like,
Yeah, I mean the shooting was off the charts. It was lights out. But like after that, I don't know where it went. Like,
That game
it
4
felt
was
like
that was the
completely
26
lost that
point
energy.
swing, correct?
That was game 5, but we still choked on a lead that we have. It was probably like a 13-point lead.
which
But
game?
at the same time, game 4,
Game 4.
It was
Maybe it was
18
I think
points.
that was a 17
18
or 18
points.
point
So,
lead.
points.
pretty
Well,
much the same.
26 point.
Certain players just didn't score like well enough after Game 3. Like obviously the media is centered on like Ben Simmons not really doing well, but like even like I remember we had like the Korkmaz game and we had the Shake Milton game. Like after Game 3, we did have like the Tyrese Maxey game in Game 6, but there was no game where like a bench player popped off. Korkmaz took the starting role and he kind of just fumbled it. He didn't really do much.
Well, here's the thing though, like what to say you're talking about like a bench player coming in and like having a spark game. We shouldn't need to have that to beat this team.
No,
I just
not
feel
with
like
the talent that we have.
We should have came away from this series knowing that we have 3 very solid players in Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, and Seth Curry.
Yeah,
they all came to play, and
I was curious who that third was going to be, Jackson.
Yeah,
despite like Curry had an off game, maybe Tobias had that one game where he had like 5 points, but for the most part, they came and they played and they did what they could this series. I thought.
I agree.
So
I kind of wanted to go a little bit more into that. It's like like I was saying, we shouldn't have to have nice chubby there, Jackson. I like that. We shouldn't have to have a bench player come in and give our team a spark. We need to have our captains, like our stars, being stars and like getting the team ready and show and like proving it on the court. If your captain's going out there and dominating, you're gonna want to go out there and dominate. When Tobias Harris is having a bad game, and I think it was game 4 or 5. Or was it 5? I'm not sure what we had the bad game. I think it was 5. He had a horrible game. Like that's not great. You can't have one of your stars just like struggling that bad. Joel Embiid had 1 or 2 bad games for his measure. Then Ben was just non-existent. I mean, like when you're like, Joel did great, but like he had like 1 bad game, I'd say, like for his standards. But yeah, if you're having your stars go out and just kind of have non-existent like games for their standards, it's you can't bank on a bench player like Tyrese Maxey or Matisse or someone else to carry your team in the playoffs.
Because when we think about accountability, I think Britt said it last time. It falls on when you have a loss in a series like this. It falls on not only the leaders of the team but the coach. And there was no leaders on this team. I think we really missed Danny Green. There was no guys really inspiring the other guys on the team to really get them going. At least from the starters' point of view. Like you can't expect that from a rookie Tyrese Maxey to come in and change the flow of the game to get a win, to hold on to this season in Game 6. That can't happen. I mean, we like that he did that.
The fact that happened should mean that you win by like
an issue.
30. You know?
Yeah.
I think
I
would
be icing on the cake.
I really do think that Embiid and Tobias did show leadership this series. I wouldn't say that they showed no leadership.
I think
Embiid, I wasn't saying none. I'm saying like there's
Caputi
games...
was.
Oh
well. Let me break that down. So I think Embiid showed leadership by going all out with the injury, the torn meniscus, like showing that he will go hard, he will be passionate for his team at whatever cost. Like he will always show up for his team for what he does personally. As far as I guess being that closer and kind of changing the momentum, like and I'll get to this later, but I think that's maybe his only flaw. But again, he's a 40-point MVP scorer. Like, I don't need him to necessarily have to do everything and then also be a closer. Like, I don't expect that from him. I don't expect him to do everything. From a leadership standpoint, I don't think he closed the game. But with anybody else, I don't think he saw. I mean, Tobias, another thing. Like, I don't think he could just pull like LeBron end of the game, just runs the game. Like, everything goes through him and he controls the game, on both sides, defensively, offensively. Scoring, yes, like he did his job and more in giving us 20 plus points pretty much every game, both the Wizards and the Hawks series. So I think Tobias, yeah, they both do what they need to do and more on their own individual level. But when it came to being a leader to close and control the game, I don't really think anybody did that from the starter. The starters.
Nobody was like LeBron taking over the game at the end of the
or KD
like in the fourth quarter,
right.
like going down, demanding the ball or whatever. But I definitely saw moments from Tobias where he was on the court, pointing people where to go. He was the only man in the bench unit for a lot of times. Like a lot of times, Doc, instead of throwing out an all bench unit, he'd throw out an all bench unit and Tobias would be the one person out there.
You're right. He would be with that.
He got screwed from those a lot.
And I think
You're right.
that we've seen in the past that when you give Tobias the ball at the end of the game, he can be the person to score. And I just don't think we ever really gave him that chance in this series to do that.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there where he didn't get that opportunity, because we have seen it before in the Lakers game earlier this year. I brought that up last time. Like, he can close out in those last 3 seconds, just get him his open shot. I don't know what happened there, to be honest. I can't ask for him to be that closer either, because I don't have that expectation
with
for
Doc
him.
Going for a 10-man lineup for this series.
A game
for
seven.
This series.
Definitely just a game seven, yeah.
All right, so let's
not even just game seven.
Let's put a hold on that, because we'll talk about the series and what went wrong overall. Let's just focus on game 7 and what went wrong here. And I think that's why I put a lot of blame on Doc, because in our last pod, right, we're talking strategy. What does he need to do? Who does he need to start to make sure that this game is successful? We get the win, and we get it pretty easily, where we don't have to really worry in the last 2 minutes of the game. But I think this was a big defensive loss in game 7. I have my game do's and game don'ts. I don't think Doc listened to our strategy. Like, what the hell, Doc? You should listen to the Philly Escape Pod. What are you doing? Release once a week. But game do's and don'ts, right? So my do's: defend the perimeter. Don't let guys like Herter come in and score endless points. Whatever he had in this game, went 4 for 4 in the first quarter. Shooting lights out. Allow the twos if you're defending that perimeter. If you can contain Trae Young, which I think we did pretty well. He was, I think, 1 for 12 in field goals. Even I think by halftime.
And he had 5-3, I think.
Got his first field goal in the second quarter, so we stopped him. But even Flay said it in the group message. He's fine if Herter gets the points if we're stopping Trae. It still didn't work out. Like the shooting.
I said
that was,
we keep Trae under 20. We kept him. He scored 21. But
give them the Herter.
Herter had a crazy night, and we lost by a lot more than 1 point.
If it wasn't Trae, it was Herter. So we still lost the game. Offensively, right? Hit your free throws. We weren't doing that. Take care of the ball. No turnovers. Joel Embiid, I think he had 8 of his own. 12 by the first half. So like all these things that we said to do, that we just didn't do, other than contain Trae. And then with Ben, I think we said just be aggressive in those early transitions, at least in the first half of the game. Ben, don't give up that ball right away if you're taking it down the court. Drive hard and then kick out to the shooters. Don't necessarily give it up at the half court, which is what he was doing towards the first and second quarter. So we had all these do's and don'ts, and I think we just weren't following that strategy or really changing up our game. And I got to blame Doc for that. We know Doc should know what his team is and what his team can do, who his leaders are. He's got to move around the pieces to make this work, to get this win. So I put a lot of blame on him. Those are my do's and don'ts of this game. And it just seemed like, we went the opposite way.
Yeah. And at this point, I feel like this deep into the series, we should realize Joel Embiid is hurt. And it's not smart to send him to basically be the entire offense towards the end of the game. When he's hurt and he's getting double teamed, triple teamed, and turning it over 8 times in a game, you can't do that at the end of the game.
Well, he shouldn't.
Like we were talking about earlier today, Jackson. Like Ben Simmons just should have been the backup 5 at this point.
He shouldn't be asked to run the offense. Like he shouldn't be asked to do that.
Nope.
Especially in the late parts of the game, when he's hurt and tired. And like going back to what Doc I don't know how. I mean, I feel like this happened to most of the 76ers fans in Philadelphia. We just got somehow we thought Doc was going to be the saving grace, even though if you look at his resume, he is just an absolute joke in the playoffs. Honestly,
Second round and out kind of guy.
I feel like we all forgot about that because we were having such a great season and we got the 1 seed, and then once we got to the playoffs, same old Doc Rivers. I mean,
Well, it's the same thing with Ben Simmons too. I mean, honestly, during the season, this team gave
right.
you every inclination that they were championship ready, championship bound, had the potential, and they
successfully
we heard the press conference
Yeah.
yesterday, and I think Daryl Morey
Tricked
was
me.
right. Yeah, Daryl Morey said in his conference yesterday that if it took us,
dude.
if it took us this long to get out of the second round, we probably weren't ready for the next round anyway.
That was one of the quotes I really was like, yeah, you're damn right.
Yeah, he said if we're squeaking by, then clearly we're not ready to win a championship.
But in the playoffs, these worries, in the regular season, sorry to cut you off, Jackson. In the regular season, these worries were much more spread out, much more one game a thing. And I think we see now that if you are forced to really play the Sixers in a chess match, they are a beatable team.
Well, that's what Tobias had said, that the regular season, it's not real. It's kind of like a joke. You play one team and they have good defense and you play bad. And then the next game you play might be against somebody who has bad defense and they don't make the adjustments. And then you can sort of just ignore the mistakes that you made in the previous game.
Right, because they're not series games. So, or for the most part, so it's not like you make those adjustments. No, Jackson and Brits, I like what you said, and Embiid shouldn't be the guy as the center of this team, having everything flow through him for him to create plays.
He is the center of our team. He's the best player, but he shouldn't be asked to run
by position. But
I mean
I know.
the best.
No, he is. He is the centerpiece. He is the centerpiece of this team, but he shouldn't be at the end of the game.
You can't ask
ball goes
to
to him right away,
or facilitate the ball like he was asked to in this
entire
series.
That's fine in the flow of the game, but it's not towards the end where it's like. One, it takes the full shot clock to do, right? I mean, he needs to turn around, get a little pumps in, go up, go back, do the turnaround jumper. It takes the full shot clock. You don't have that kind of time to mess around to get a 2-point shot.
Especially when it's like in the late game parts of the game where it's like almost like a not full court press, but you know what I mean, like a half court press. Like they're once you get like up to the half court line, you're being defended.
Yeah, it just doesn't work. Like we needed quick plays, opening up space, and it was kind of like a Brett Brown scenario. Well, not even, because it was just going to Embiid, and he was just creating the play every single time.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say it's like a Brett Brown scenario.
Yeah, not even, because
to be honest, when Brett
didn't
Brown
involve anybody else.
When Brett Brown was like playing the Toronto Raptors, he made severely good like lineup changes and adjustments. He made Jimmy Butler play point guard, and there were all these specific things that he did.
He had to do that.
Yeah,
it's probably why we played that series much better.
But yeah, he made specific adjustments that worked in the series, and I didn't see that from Doc this series. I think our team is fundamentally missing a closer, which we had in Jimmy Butler, which I think Morey is saying that if we just squeak by this round, we're not ready. And I think what he means by that is we're missing that extra piece, that piece that can finish the game for us.
We need a closer.
We're missing
Need a closer.
We are missing a primary ball handler that can create his own shot. We literally have 0 of those players on this team.
We got one. He's just 20 years old and not ready for the spotlight.
Exactly.
Yeah. And he's not there.
Also, I was just going back to what we talked about last game into Game 6, where Tyrese did have a lot more minutes and had more minutes than Ben. When he was actually handling the ball, we were playing much better.
It's just unfortunate though, because I think that was more so sort of a fluke where they weren't really planning for Tyrese Maxey, because you see in this game and in I guess just in this game, he only had 2 points in 14 minutes. He really wasn't doing as well as he did that game. I think maybe because they were able to plan for him more.
I agree, but don't you think that towards the end of the game we kind of should have not towards the end of the game, I guess more towards even just the fourth quarter in general, maybe just try to put the ball in his hands more and try to get a lead and see if he can take us how he did in the Game 6.
I think it's tough to risk it all there on that. I feel like
is it risking it all if Ben's not doing it either?
But do you really trust Ben as far as come from behind points? Tyrese is just so fast. I feel like he can it should run through him. Like he could get the spacing alone, even if he was just like handling and then kicking it out. Like
It might
Ben
be taking it too far with
can't.
like how far Maxey can actually take this team at this point. But like I still think it was almost like you say it's risk.
But
I think it's almost worth the risk in that point where Ben
I
wasn't getting
mean,
it done.
clearly it would have been because we lost anyway.
I guess so.
So, but yeah, no. I mean, again, going back to Doc not making changes, and here's some examples of this, right? Ferk getting 3 starts in a row and having 3 bad starts in a row. Like not even a thought of putting in Thibault and really getting Thibault in there sooner for his defense. I think defense is what we were lacking. Even in this game, third quarter, I have him in my notes, Capella cherry picker. Like, how do we let that play continue to happen again and again and again?
For the whole series,
ridiculous.
not even just the whole game, but for 7 whole
we stopped it
games.
well in games 1, game 2, like the early games, and then we're just letting it, happen again and again. It's so frustrating.
Are you talking about the floaters that he was putting?
The
him?
Trey Young floaters to
Yeah.
Capella, it was just so easy. Even Embiid like wasn't stopping it or wasn't acknowledging or realizing what was happening.
I was thinking about that, like as I was watching it happen, and like I was thinking, like, how we keep letting this happen? It's almost like we like didn't even try to defend it.
I know. He would just wait.
No, it's like it caught us by surprise every time it happened.
He just ran to that spot literally every single possession. Trey would float it up, and again, Trey either floats it up where it could go in, and if it doesn't go in, Clint's there ready to put it back in. So it's like it almost works every time. It gives them 2 chances every time they put it up.
The crazy thing is, why do the Sixers not do that more with Embiid? They seem to do a decent amount with Dwight Howard. Yeah, exactly.
Maybe it's I mean, it's a good point. It's something to think about.
You'd think you'd have a guy like if you have Ben who's actually being aggressive, like that could be like an unstoppable play almost, like how they had it against us. In theory, we have 2 better players doing that same play.
2 players the size of centers.
Yeah, we have a 6'11" guy and a 7 foot whatever guy.
Ben and Embiid, who should be able to do that.
Yeah, they just don't work together. Like it seems like they don't work together in the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I don't know, but we're here to talk about it.
I'm very frustrated.
Let's talk about the series then. All right, you guys will like. Wait, well, actually, before we do that, of course, who lost this game for us? All right. Give us some percentages. We want to hear it from you guys. So, do you put a lot of blame on Doc, Ben, JoJo, less so, but we need to put a third name in there for the animation's sake. So I'm not blaming Embiid. He's not going to be the guy that's going to close. But again, I think the blame goes on Doc here.
Where do you think 180% of this blame lies?
Listen, I just search for the gifts. I don't do the mental math real quick on how it's supposed to add up.
No, I see what you're going for though.
Yeah.
It's so hard to put it on Joel. It's like
it's not though. He had 8 turnovers.
No,
for this game.
I'm not done
yeah. Let him go.
It's so hard to put it on Joel, but he didn't have an MVP caliber series. Like it wasn't even close, really. I mean, he obviously is hurt, but he had just a mountain of mistakes that turnovers wise, just getting stripped a couple times that game. Not making his layups, not even going for dunks when he has easy dunks. There was a couple times where I was just like, man, he does not look like he can legitimately win the finals. He looks like a player that's kind of just stuck in purgatory. He can't get it done. But it's I don't want to go there yet with him because he is so talented.
So are you saying for this game, I can see how you can make an argument for why Joel could have lost this game because of the eight turnovers. I mean, 40 points the first couple games and the amount that he's done on the knee. I mean, I don't know how you can, and when you have 7 games in Ben Simmons where he only shot 2 total shots in the fourth quarter across all 7 games, I don't know how you can put more blame on Embiid over Ben.
I think it's we are absolutely blessed to have Embiid on our team. We're not going to have a person that's as good as Embiid on our team for maybe the next 40 years. You know what I mean? He's just that special. I think that you can put blame on him in the fact that he was hurt and that we, stupidly ran the offense through him towards the end of the games and had him be the primary ball handler in some situations, sometimes at the key, just give it to him. And putting him in scenarios where he's going to turn it over. If we were in a scenario where somebody else was handling the ball, maybe he wouldn't have 8 turnovers. It's just stupid for him to be in those situations where he can, get 8 turnovers. I think that Ben, obviously, as I'm the biggest Ben defender here, but Ben, you're stupid if you think that Ben had a good series. He was he positive and plus minus? Yeah, he obviously had great defense, and he wasn't the only problem on our team. If he was the only problem on our team, he would have a negative plus minus. Clearly, when he was on the court, wasn't the point where we were losing the games 100% of the time. I think Doc clearly had very stupid rotations that lost us a lot of these games. I don't know. It's just a weird amalgamation of things. Our team isn't built the right way. If we have Danny Green and we have a healthy Embiid, we're not going to be in this situation. We're going to be in the finals right now. But you have to adapt to the situation, and I don't think Doc accurately adapted to the situation.
And that's the name of the game, baby. That's the name of the game. You got to adapt in playoffs.
Solid take, Jackson.
I was just gonna say I agree with pretty much everything you just said, except for the last part, where I think that where you said that everything you just said is actually dead accurate to what I was about to say, except for the last part where I think that we would be in the finals if Joel was healthy.
Why would you not think that? If we're in the fight, if Embiid's healthy, he's not playing like this. He's gonna drop 40 points a game. He's not going to be in a situation where he's unable to get past people in the post.
Okay, but I think we beat the Hawks, obviously, right? But I just don't know if this team is built in general to win the finals.
Even just on the fact that in Game 4, if he was healthy, he would have dunked it, and we would have won Game 4. Game 5, he would have dunked it instead of going for the layup. Then we win Game 5 and we win Game 6.
Basically, what you're saying is that if he could just jump a little higher.
He also said Danny Green, so that's part of it.
Yeah, Danny, that's actually
as Flay gets a mid yawn in there and tries to hide it.
That is big. Danny Green was a huge loss this series, bigger than we could have expected.
And especially because Danny Green, I know in the Wizards series he didn't play great, but he has the capability to put up 20, 25 points in a game, just hit 7 of 8 from 3 or something. If he's on, he's on. And he's, no matter what, he's going to be playing much better defense than Quirk was. And I think if he's playing good defense, maybe Herter doesn't go off, or somebody like John Collins. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just to finish up, I guess just to finish up, it's just hard for me to look at it as we would have won we would be in the final. I guess you said we would be in the finals. I guess I could see that. I was more so saying winning the finals.
Oh no, I'm just saying we would have advanced past this round.
Oh,
yeah,
well, that's also the finals. Though.
I'm totally there with you guys, right? I think healthy Embiid and Danny Green were definitely beating the Hawks. I'm thinking if we're playing against the Bucks, this seems like a culture problem, and I don't know if it came after Green got hurt and after Embiid got hurt, and all these things happened where things started going downhill, or if it was bound to happen no matter what. Where we were we'll get to crunch time, we'll just completely falter, and and Doc kind of doesn't do, make any changes to adapt and change his strategy. Do you guys think if we had the healthy Embiid, healthy Danny Green, do you think this thing was going to fall apart and crumble no matter what, just based on what we've seen from the culture of this team right now?
I don't think it would have fallen apart to this level. I think that we still would have seen obviously the struggles of Ben, not scoring as well as he could in the fourth quarter or in the third quarter, but I don't think it would have gotten to this point. I don't think as much pressure would have been on him.
The injury has cost us this series. I wouldn't go as far as to say that without the injuries that we would have won the whole thing.
I don't want to go too far and say that we put all the blame on injuries though, because we still could have won this with what we have right now.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
But I'm saying they did cost us this series. I think it would have been an easy win without him.
I agree, because I think that pressure comes off of Ben if we're blowing out the Hawks and we have easy wins, and he's okay, I don't have to do it as much offensively scoring. I can let the other guys do that.
Yeah.
I'll just play my defense, do my thing, and then I'm worrying a lot less. Okay. No, that's a good point to just go to the next slide and just give them the team grade. You guys will like this. I think you'll like the last one too. So just one big F all around for these guys, because they could have done it. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot.
That's
of
why
red.
it takes them an hour and a half to do each one.
All right, relax. You could have helped me out. Sit back. But yeah, one big F. I mean, we were at a C-, right? I would have bumped them up to a B if we won. I had to bump them down to an F because you can't, with what we had this year, you can't walk away and lose
We
the Hawks.
still are not
You can't
past
walk
the
away in the
round.
second round.
We still
It's
are not
a
past the
failure.
second round. It's a failure. It's an
All right.
all-around failure.
And with that, we'll catch up with you guys in a minute after this short break.
We're going to take a little break, guys. Be back in a sec.
All right, so we're back in it. So we're talking Hawks and Sixers series
You guys are
grades.
not making this easy on me.
I know, and that's the job. We're gonna make you work tonight. So one big F across the board. You see a lot of red on the screen right now. It's called woulda. It's not called water. We go to Wawa around here. We don't go to Sheets. Carson Wentz is a failure. I think DK Metcalf had more catches than J-Jaw did in one game than J-Jaw did in his entire life. So all failure across the board, across the screen right now. But especially because we got to the second round. This was a different team, different coach. We saw him lifting up these players. We talked about it endlessly. We praised Doc across the season. And this is what we get. The same result as what we normally get. And Brett Brown's team in basically this whole playoff series run that the Sixers have done year after year. It's just the same result. And, we walk away, the fans dedicate, like those tweets, Jackson, like those tweets. We dedicated our time. We invested in this team, and this is how they return the favor. So this is what we're stuck with.
I have a lot to say about what you just said. First of all, literally every single one of us says water and not wooder.
It's woulda.
Also, it's not exactly the same results as Brett Brown got. Like, you have to give Doc some credit.
On paper, it is.
Ultimately, we lost. Okay, if you're gonna be that fucking generic, yeah, it's the same exact result.
Round.
We didn't. Last year, didn't we lose in the first round?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, so even worse.
But our peak has been the second round.
That was the bubble season. That's an asterisk on that season.
The best team that we've had was not this team. The best team that we've had was the team with Jimmy Butler on it. That was our best chance to win the championship so far. That was our best team. And Brett didn't get past the first round. With basically this team, you just sub out Al Horford and add in Al Horford and Josh Richardson, and you add in Seth Curry and Danny Green. We got farther than Brett Brown did. So I think Doc did better with almost a very similar roster than Brett Brown did. I know it's not the same results, but you can't say that this is Brett being just as bad or Doc being just as bad as Brett, because Doc did pretty well with this roster, and it was a hurt roster with a hurt Embiid and a hurt Danny Green. It wasn't even like we had the best roster.
So as far as you're feeling though, on this loss and on this, on the Sixers now being out of the playoffs, don't you feel a little bit more disappointed? Because I felt like the stars were aligning this year with, okay, the Nets are out, Lakers are knocked out early. It seemed like everything was working in our favor for this to be the year, if any. So don't you feel that level of disappointment even more so than the loss to Kawhi and the Raptors?
I feel significantly less disappointed with this loss than I do the loss against Kawhi. The loss against Kawhi, we had an immaculate team, and we had such a good chance to win the finals. We literally went to the last second against the team that did win the finals, and they went back and said that we were their toughest matchup, which means we were the second best team in the league that year. This series, quite frankly, I think we all knew it in the back of our heads. We just weren't getting it done. The whole vibe wasn't there, and it just didn't seem like. It just seemed like something was off this year. I don't know what it was. It just seemed like something was off, and I'm just like, I'm already over it. I can just more so say like, oh, okay, we had like an injured season. Ben was messed up in the head, and it just wasn't there for us.
I totally disagree, because you weren't saying that same thing a couple weeks ago or last week even. I
think last week I would have said that Kawhi, the team that lost to Kawhi, was better. I think I've been saying that.
Well, that's one thing, but to not be disappointed about. I mean, you got to be a little bit disappointed that
obviously
we can't get past the Hawks.
Not even close to the levels of that team that lost to Kawhi.
I think there's two things going on here. I think Jackson's saying that he's not saying he's not as disappointed as that other team because he thinks that team
was better,
built better to win the finals. So he was more disappointed in that. But I think there's also a point here of I feel like this year as a whole, maybe not in your eyes, Jackson, felt like the year that the Sixers like we're gonna win. I feel like that year
I just yeah.
I feel like in
It
that
felt-
year against I feel like that year against the Raptors that we lost, I feel like it was like we could win, but I don't feel like there was that holistic view as Philadelphia where we were like this is our year. More
Yeah,
so
I
like
just
there was
I
a
just felt,
definite wave this year.
yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at.
maybe I just didn't feel it as much as you guys did this year. I think that I felt like, the Nets were really good, the Bucks were really good. There were a lot of teams that were really good in the West. I thought that we had a really good team. I thought that we were maybe overperforming throughout the year because we were pretty bad with virtually the same roster the year before. And I liked the way we played. Even earlier in the season, I remember saying that like we're winning games, but we're winning games against teams that don't have their star players in. And I wanted to know like what we would look against, like an actual good team, with all their players in.
Yeah,
And
I
that
remember
was
talking to you about that.
Yeah, no, it's been brought
It's
up.
a
I
fair
mean,
point.
a couple of years ago, though, to agree with Britz's point, like I didn't feel like the talks at that time were like, what is going to happen? What's it going to take for Brett Brown to be fired, right? And so for that to be a competitive series in round two clearly wasn't enough at that point. And I agreed with that take. Like I thought that it was a competitive series against the Raptors. That
Well, it was obviously a better series. It came down with last shot,
well,
last game.
that's what I'm saying. The fact that it was a competitive series against the Raptors gave justification for bringing Brett Brown back because I mean it's a good sign that your team is growing. I mean from a year ago before that to just I think beating the Heat and then losing to the Celtics. So you saw that progression, and I feel like we just wanted to continue to see that progression from round two, and that's what makes this so disappointing. Is end result, regardless of how it happened, we're still in the same place, even though we picked up more pieces. We picked up what looks like the right general manager in Daryl Morey. And it still seems like we can't get there because of this whole culture thing that we just can't seem to shake of why we can't think that we're the best team out there. I mean, that's where my disappointment comes in.
I think for me, it more so is that like the team with Brett Brown that lost to Kawhi, it felt like a culmination of the process. That felt like that was the year that the process was completed. We got Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler was literally the pure essence of Philly, and he represented everything that Philly stood for. And it just we went on the court and we had hunger in our eyes every single second of every single game. It didn't feel like there was a moment where we were like just giving up,
I feel
and
like. Go ahead. Sorry.
it felt like for me this year was like the start of something good, and it felt like we were doing good and we had a chance to win the championship, but it felt like something that was going to like continue. And like I guess obviously at that point it could have continued, but there were so many question marks with the off season, so it felt like that was the year. For me, it feels like this is
We had
something
Jimmy
new and
Butler,
could
Ben
continue.
Simmons, Embiid, and Tobias Harris that year, right?
With JJ Redick.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy. That
No,
team actually
it is insane to think about, but it makes you think like what went wrong there.
Well,
Was it
Literally
Brett?
just a bounce of a shot. We were the second best team in the league that year.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
5
I
bounces.
feel like everybody in the world
Yeah.
thought we were gonna win that overtime too. Like
Yeah, and
Yeah, no, I definitely
we had come back from like a pretty. If I remember
definitely-
correctly, we
Jimmy
had come
Butler
back on that game.
didn't he have 2 big shots in the last like 30 seconds of the game? I'm pretty sure he did.
big shots. I mean, I know I felt
think there
like
was a
we were going to
floor
win
run.
that if we
we
went
literally
to,
had the lead up until
overtime.
the end of that game.
Jimmy Butler literally drove it up the court with like 10 seconds left and just laid one in to
Yeah.
tie the game. Like he did it all himself.
Yep. But no, that I mean, I see what you're saying because like, I mean, look at how that team was crafted and like, how could you think anything less of like a championship team the way it was built?
I was gonna say
Like it looks prime, prime, the setup for that. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I forgot what I was gonna say, but I remembered. I feel like it's like almost like a hindsight thing. I feel like at that time, maybe you realized it, Jackson, but like I feel like as like Philly, we didn't realize how good
Yeah.
that team actually was and how much how that team actually like was built.
I
Like,
think
almost like it should
there was
be
a big
now.
portion of the fan base that had the same exact feeling that they
That's
had
what I'm
this
s-
year. That year,
I just felt like
yeah,
really?
like championship caliber team. Yes.
Oh, okay. Well,
I just felt
I
like
was just feeling as like a whole, like it just felt like it was like a hindsight thing. Like when we lost Jimmy Butler, it seemed like our team was like. I just like obviously the next year, like Ben Simmons gets hurt, and we get
'cause I
swept in
think
the first
we-
round,
yeah.
but it's like it's I don't know. I
think
now
we
we
were
realize we needed Jimmy Butler more than ever. Like
Yeah,
right now.
exactly. I think we questioned it. When we knew he was on his way out, I think we were like, all right, who's really the piece that's like making this work right now? And then we realized it really quick once he was gone. Like you missed it. You missed it when it's
Ball
gone.
handling,
The heart grows fonder.
A ball handling shooter. Like that's what we. That's
What
he
we
was.
needed, what we didn't get in
Closer.
Fultz, and what we needed.
I think that it just wait. Come back to me. I need to think.
Okay, we'll come back to you. Yeah, but no, I think I think those are good takes. I'm glad you actually brought that up because I think it makes sense. Like, what level of disappointment are you feeling? And I think it's just because of the bar that was set this year too. Like, it's the Hawks. Like, you felt like that should have been easy, and the way we went out, like it just didn't feel right.
I know what I was going to say again. I think there's a reason that at the end of Game 7 against the Raptors, Embiid was crying, and he wasn't crying at the end of this game. It just felt like that year we were on a mission. We were dominating when we were on the court, and we were doing our shit, and we were beasts.
James Ennis and Greg Monroe featuring in that series.
This year, it just felt like the whole thing was muddled with like negativity, and like Ben wasn't hitting his shots. Everybody was clowning on Ben.
Yes, well, Ben carried a lot of negativity.
And Embiid torn meniscus, Danny Green out. It was so many negative things that were happening to us that like towards the end, like I was like, we lost, and it just was like I was like that. It sucks, and I'm disappointed, but that makes sense.
And you want to know why I think that Joel cried that year and he didn't cry this year. I mean, one, because he's mature and he's mature, but I think he took that more personally the year against the Raptors. Like, we all, like, everybody was playing their game, everybody showed up, and him personally, like, they just couldn't quite get there, even though it was one shot difference. This one, he said what the turning point of Game 7 was. He was clearly disappointed in one specific person
left in the fourth,
in Ben Simmons. So he put this blame without saying it vocally that it was there were some pieces that just didn't show up in Ben Simmons, and things went wrong.
Joel Embiid cried because he knew Jimmy Butler was about to leave.
Not only that.
Well, fair enough. Whatever.
That year, it felt like we were going to win, and when we lost, I just had this overwhelming feeling of like, this doesn't make sense. This is our year. We were supposed to win, and like. It's just bad luck. It's like, just run it back and you run this playoff series over and over again, and we win like the playoffs maybe like 3 out of 5 times or maybe like 3 out of 7 times. Like, we had a really good chance, and it just didn't make sense to me that we lost. And after this series, it made sense. I was like, I don't like it, but it makes sense that we lost and we need to get better. It wasn't like, let's run this back and we'll win it again. I feel like we could run this series 7 times and we'd lose like 5 or 6 of those times.
See, I disagree with that though. I think it doesn't make sense that we lost to the Hawks. I think it like, even with the hurt Joel Embiid, and a Danny Green being out, there was so many opportunities to win this series. Up by 25,
we were up
by 18.
Yeah.
Like that's where the disappointment lies, I feel like. Would we have won the next series? Maybe not, because like there's glaring holes that we saw with this Raptor series towards the end that like we just like it wouldn't have worked against the Bucks. It's a better team. I think the disappointment lies within this series alone, almost, because we were up by 25 points to go up 3-1, and then we're up by 18 points to go up 3-2, and that either we win both those games, we win the series.
Yeah, no, this series completely flip-flopped from the early games to the late games, and so I think it's a testament to the coach, the culture, which again I think it all goes back to, was this thing going to fall apart regardless of all these little things that happen? Well, not little things, but
and that's the
these
whole
things
thing
and
that you're
injuries.
hoping for.
But
this with everything with like Morey coming in is a culture change. That's like the big thing we were kind of like sold on this year.
And I think that. What does that look like, right? It means not coddling anybody, regardless of who you are, to set the stage of, this is what this team's going to be like. We break you down to build you back up. I think that's the mentality you got to have.
I think ultimately the big difference is that like that year we had built a team, and that was the team. I think that now we are building a team, and it's not a finished product.
Okay, so no, I mean that makes sense, and we can kind of think about what that means for the process too. But with that said, who do you guys put to blame for the now, right? For this series, for this year, who's tonight's biggest loser? If we look at
is this for the entire year as a whole?
We're looking at this year, and then we'll talk a little bit process terms. But who do you put that blame on? I think, again, for me, if I'm doing percentages, I think it's Doc 50%, maybe 50, kind of like a 55 Ben 35 deal, and then JoJo Tobias 10% that they split just because they're the leaders of the team. I don't even put fault on them. I
Did
think
that math right?
Well, I did actually. If you add it up,
Well,
50, 40, 10. But I said 55, 35, and then whatever. But most of the blame on Doc because he could have adapted his team and got them in the space, in the position to win, regardless of what happened. Ben, you got to show up. He was mentally just broken. Like he was just a ghost in the playoffs in this second round. Regardless of why, he just wasn't here. So, and then JoJo with the injury, but still showing up. Tobias. I don't really even give them blame because they did what they needed to do. I think it just has to fall on the next men up, like the leaders of the team. But what do you guys think for this year? And F is not for friends who win championships together. F is for failure. So where do you guys put the blame?
I'm gonna go with Doc. If I had to pick one person, I would say, because again, I think that my take is the whole season was awesome. They were the team to beat throughout the regular season. And I think going into the playoffs, it was, not unjustified of us as a fan base to have the high expectations that this was a championship caliber team that could make it to the finals. And I think that the biggest thing when we talk about these games is that 18-point lead, that 26-point lead, those swings. Those swings are much more than just having guys on the court who aren't capable. Those swings are coaching.
Scheme.
Those lineups that run negative 10s, negative 13s on our players are coaching. So I think that Doc holds the biggest blame.
I was gonna, yeah, I think you're mostly right. I'm gonna piggyback off that a little bit. I think Doc is to blame. It's hard to put like one biggest loser here. I'm gonna try to narrow it down, I guess. But Doc is absolutely to blame for those leads being blown. You can't put that on one player like Ben. It's absolutely Doc's fault that we lost those 25-point and 20 or 18-point leads in those back-to-back games. That is ridiculous. You literally just can't let that happen, especially in a playoff series.
Yep.
But coming down the stretch, even game 6 and 7, Ben is just non-existent, and we had to rely on Maxey to win game 6, which is ridiculous that we should put that much on that guy. But he did step up, and he basically bailed out Ben, honestly, in that game 6.
Pretty
and then
much.
game 7, he is just not there, man. He's just literally not there, and I put Ben to blame for game 7. 100%.
I'll say Ben. The moment Ben passed up that dunk, the series was over. That being said, it should have never came down to a game 7.
Yeah.
In the first place.
I mean, it's just hard to win. It's hard to win with a player like Ben the way he is right now. Honestly.
I have a pretty long-winded take on this. I think that you can sort of say that the blame lies on Joel, Doc, and Ben. Obviously, if you are creating a championship team, I don't think that this team is it. I think that we have a major hole in our lineup. We have 4 startable players. We have Seth, we have Toby, we have Ben, we have Joel, and then we have that open spot. Danny Green's good. Danny Green's getting older. Danny Green was hurt for this playoff, and he was missing. We had 4 starters, and we were constantly getting abused. Furkan is not able to start in the playoffs. Seth Curry is good in the playoffs, but he gets abused on defense, and we just need somebody to pick up the slack in that area. I think Ben obviously didn't play well on offense. He played good on defense, but just not good enough to win a championship. Embiid, I think if we're in a championship mode where we're going to win a championship, I think he played well, but I think he played inefficiently. I think that he scored so many points because he got so many shots. I think he turned the ball over a lot. I think you can say that was because he was injured, but I think he also just has to play better. I think that ultimately 100% of the blame should go on Elton Brand for years ago being such a horrible GM and putting us in this situation where we can't sign Jimmy Butler, or we have to or we've spent so much money on like Al
Here he
Horford
goes. Let him
to
go.
where like we can't have a fifth starter. We need 5 startable players, and preferably have like Seth Curry be like, like the worst player on the offense. I think Seth Curry
Go
this
off,
series
birthday boy.
played obviously better than Ben, but like we need a fifth starter. We can't win a championship with 4 starters. It doesn't make any sense. We can't be relying on bench players to pop off for 15 points a game. We need a starter who can score that 15 points a game. And I think that ultimately, you put the blame on Elton Brand for putting us in this position where we don't have a starter to win the series.
He's at the 30. He's at the 20. He's at the 10. I hope the Sixers organization is listening to you right now, because they should be taking some notes. That was great.
Jackson's
I love
making
it.
some great
Give me
points
back.
right now. Birthday boy's going off on this pod. I think this is a Jackson pod
I love that. I love that.
But I actually have a little bit of a gripe with one thing you just said.
Always something.
Of course I do. The thing with Seth Curry, right? Like he's being your fourth best player, right? And obviously we have like guys who are, we should have had Danny Green in the starting location. That sucks that we didn't have him. It would have been nice to have him. I think like with him, obviously he's our fifth starter. But with it always comes back to Ben. Going back to Ben, if Ben is able to score points late in the game, we are able to put a defender in like Matisse Thybulle. If you can't take Seth Curry off the court, if it's impossible to take him off the court because he's such a good scorer, it comes back to Ben. Ben's not a scorer. He literally can't score in the fourth quarter. So we literally have to have a scorer like Seth Curry in the game. So that means we can't put a defender like Matisse Thybulle in, and we can't let if Ben could score in the fourth quarter, 20 points a game, or like get like 10 points in the fourth quarter, we could take Seth Curry out, add a defender like Thybulle, and nothing would be different.
My whole thing is that in my perfect world, you'd have Seth Curry, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, and Tobias out there, and a fifth starter who can defend and can put up points. So we're not in this situation where we have to play this defensive specialist bench player and put him in at the end of the games. You just already have that player down the stretch who's going to play good.
No, you're right.
I just want to make the point. Imagine drafting Michael Bridges and then trading him for
giving him away for nothing.
Zaire Smith, and then trading Zaire Smith for like a D League player. He's in the D League now.
Where's Zaire? DG? Yeah,
he doesn't even play for the Sixers. I think.
Yeah, he's on I think the D League team for the Detroit Pistons. And
Michael Bridges is on the
like
Suns
an all-star
right now,
about to win the freaking finals.
Killing it.
We could have had him on the team. He would have been the perfect fifth starter.
Well, I did preface that by saying it sucks that Danny Green is not be able to be our fifth starter.
So
I responded to someone's tweet about NBA drafts, and I said something about like crying in Mikal Bridges. That is a travesty when you think about it.
It's a goddamn travesty.
It's been coming up a lot lately.
I remember sitting at the bar on draft day watching that trade happen, and I didn't know too much about like college basketball just in general, but I knew that the Mikal Bridges guy was a Philly local who could really ball out.
Nova, baby.
Watched him at a few Nova games. And then when that trade came out of nowhere, everyone was like, "What the hell is going on, dude?"
All you have to know is Mikal Bridges' mom literally works for the Sixers, and there was he was brought into the family. He was promised he was going to be here. He was so stoked to be here. He literally dropped our pick. We probably shouldn't have even been able to draft him. And then they trade him for a project who they're like, it's going to turn into the next Kawhi. And then the next year just give up on him and not even give him any time because he was
part of that fucking Snake's tenure here.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, it was so disappointing because, again, I was in the same boat as Flay. I don't watch college basketball, but I listened to the stories. He was welcomed in the family, like Jackson said, and I don't think he even stayed for more than a minute because of how quickly we dealt him. And it was just such a letdown. I mean, obviously, we didn't know the guy yet, but he was a Philly local that seemed like he was fit right in as another piece to this, process storyline.
His mom literally works for the organization.
Yeah, I mean, there was basically no difference between him and Zaire Smith at terms for me as far as what I knew about them. So
because Zaire was known for the defense, right?
Zaire was not even supposed to be picked as high as we drafted him.
Okay,
sounds like a typical Philly thing to do.
Well, anyway, guys, I think
crazy.
I think
it's a great segue into looking forward.
I think that makes for a good transition point. We're gonna stay on this slide before we talk Sixers future, because let's look at the header, right? Process trust or process bust. So let me just define a few things and kind of go through, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong. My understanding of the process, right, just as far as definitions go, where we were tanking, basically losing to turn the assets that we would get into long-term success. And so I'm going to define what long-term success to me means. You guys can define that for yourselves. For me, I feel like it's at least one title with going consistently to the finals, like consistently getting opportunities, or at least calling yourself a franchise. To lose for that long to get to the position where, okay, we can make the finals or get pretty close each year, or every other year. Like, we're in the running, and then eventually get a title out of it too. So that was my end goal in mind. Flay, you might have a different idea of what kind of success we were looking to get out of the process, but that's what I imagined it as.
Yeah, I think it's important to take into consideration the context of which, like, the idea of the process kind of incurred is that, like, when you're an NBA team and you're kind of teetering on that, like, 10 through, like, 7 spot, like, where you're not getting high draft picks, but you're still making the playoffs, but you're not a high seed, you don't have any actual competitive chance to do anything with it. You're kind of in this limbo. So the process was kind of a very legitimate taking a step back to take 2 steps forward, where we took ourselves out of that contention of being that mediocre playoff team at the reward of getting those higher draft picks. And we had a guy who, Sam Hinkie, was obviously amazing at, taking low draft picks, getting great value for them, and it continually had this cycle where we were just upvaluing picks and players. And it culminates into getting picks like Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, who are guys who you could really build a franchise around and become a team who really has a chance. It's not a dead set thing that you're going to win a championship. I think it should be clear that the process was never about, like, this team will win a championship. It's about getting out of that limbo and being able to build a team that has the potential to go on and build a championship, which is kind of where we're at that stage of it right now.
And I just want to say, like, a little bit more about the process. I think that, like, Sam Hinkie explained the process very simply in that, like Flay said, we were bad. We were middling of the road. There was no chance of ever, like, getting out of where we were. We were just going to continuously be like the 8th seed and get knocked out in the first round and not have a good enough pick to get better. So what he did was he traded everybody that had value for picks, and he wouldn't sign players unnecessarily so that he had open cap room for the future, or he had the option for people to salary dump to us and gain more picks. Because as he explained it, the top end of the draft, which you're getting picks in for being bad and you're getting picks in for trades, is hit or miss. It's very hit or miss. But it's very
Right.
But the more picks that you have in that area, the more chance you have to hit. Because if you're not going to hit on every pick, just having more picks increases your odds. You're going to hit on somebody. And he very clearly did that. I think the process personally ended when Sam Hinkie got fired because Colangelo didn't continue the process. Elton Brand didn't continue the process. They took the treasure trove that Hinkie gave them and they completely squandered it. So now we're at a point where we have Joel Embiid and we have Ben Simmons. That's our haul from the process. We don't have anything else from it. We had defaults. We could have not been complete dickheads defaults and tried to, increase his value. We could have tried to increase the value of Jahlil Okafor. We could have tried to increase the value of so many players, but we either let them walk or we traded them for below their market value just to, short-term increase our chance of winning, which is completely opposite to the idea of the process. The process is ended. It was ended a long time ago. I think ideally we did sort of like succeed in the process just in the fact that we got a player as good as Embiid. The process could have ended better. We could have gotten more good players. We obviously got Simmons, who is a good player and has value. I know you guys don't think he has as much value as I do, or don't think he's as good as us.
I think he's a great asset to have. I'm not saying that he's... Yeah, go ahead.
I just think, just basically, I don't think the process was 100% success, but I think we're lucky it happened. I think we owe any success in the future to it.
It's definitely left us better than we started.
I want to say one thing, and then Brits, I'll let you comment, because I think you're 100% right, Jackson. I think that because I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, the process failed because you got first round busts like Okafor and Fultz and things like that." I don't think the process failed when you got those picks. because that was the idea of it, right? Like
That's just the process of motion.
you get all of the. It's more so getting the opportunities and less so getting the hits. Like if you up your chances of opportunities, you're in turn going to get more potential and higher probability to get good picks. So it wasn't.
The process is getting MCW, who's rookie of the year, and then realizing he's rookie of the year, but he's not that good. So immediately trading him as he's rookie of the year when the value is the highest, and acquiring Dario Saric and other picks.
Exactly. It's continuing to funnel those things for the growth to find the people that are the centerpieces of the team, like guys like Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, not just getting an Okafor. And, that's not where the failure was, because we were still in the position to do what we wanted. We had control. We had power to be able to deal, those players to, again, get more higher picks the next year's over. And where we failed, where this process failed, was when we traded up for Markelle Fultz, when we didn't have to do that. I know everybody wanted to do that at the time. Everybody was on board. He was the next piece. I don't think there was anybody saying like, whoa, this is the worst thing ever. But I think that's where we started to fail, where the Colangelos and the Elton Brands started doing these deals and rushing things and not getting anything in the future value back to put us in the position where we had control to do what we wanted. We lost control, and then we were just left with the result of Embiid and Ben.
The process, exactly. The process is all about taking your time, having the longest view in the room, and just, having Embiid be hurt, but having Embiid and still losing games and acquiring more first-round picks is bad in the short term, but in the long term, it's great. And when you start rushing it, and obviously, personally, at the time, Markelle Fultz seemed like the perfect piece to our team, and I really wanted him. But like you said, trading up for him was very anti-process. You should have, just waited at your spot and taken who you could have got.
So, yeah, I mean, you guys kind of hit it on, in your own right. All of you kind of hit it on, on the head. I pretty much agree with all of it. The only thing I'll go to is, where I think the process kind of, failed, I guess. I don't think it necessarily failed, because I think it did, get us a lot of great assets like Ben, like Joel, and kind of where we're sitting now and where we were a couple years ago with, the 2019 team. But I think where we, kind of overlook is, almost like the development process of these players. Don't you guys think that kind of comes into into play a lot here, with Markelle Fultz and with Ben? These guys were supposed to be prolific players, so that were. I mean, Ben obviously ended up being I guess obviously better than Markelle Fultz, but not the people, not the players we necessarily thought they were, because of I think the development process.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. The development process has been horrible. Even Joel Embiid, Joel Embiid, you could say is an exception to the rule, because he's obviously developed. I think
it took him long enough though. How many years were we complaining about double teams and him?
But you have to think of players like Robert Covington, who was a D-League player who developed really well here. TJ McConnell, who developed well here. Saric, who developed well here. There are a lot of players that developed well here and had great years here.
That's one thing that you can really say for the process is how many of those guys are now in the league doing big things.
Yeah, and Jeremy Grant. But arguably Jeremy Grant got better when he was on another team. Brett Brown probably was not the best developmental coach. I think that realistically the process is just having a good GM, simply because Hinkie came in here, he saw the best path for moving forward was tanking. So that was the situation. We just named it the process. We had two bad GMs. There was no process there. I think now we're in a point where we have the process again, where we have Daryl Morey. He's not afraid to be cutthroat. He's not afraid to, make long-sighted moves.
Well, that's Daryl Morey's MO is cutting guys.
And Hinkie was a disciple of Morey.
Yeah, Daryl Morey's thing is he will not. He's not afraid to send anybody out. To get something that he thinks is better. And to be fair, in his past, it's actually not worked out great for him. But back to the development thing. I feel with Ben, Joel as well. The early parts of his career, he wasn't developing as fast as we thought he would, and he actually did obviously come into his own. Obviously, this year was a breakout year for him, the best year he's ever had, MVP basically. And with Ben, it's just how do we not develop this guy's shooting 4 years ago? How is Brett Brown gonna sit there and be you can shoot, or you should shoot more, but I'm not really gonna force you to, you don't you should, I want you to, and then Ben's kind of just no, you have to make this guy. This guy should have been shooting 3 years ago. This guy should have been shooting in games 3 years ago, developing his shot. When we were like not as good of a team, or like we were still a good team, but like we weren't like that prolific like number 1 seed in what we are now. Like we shouldn't have to deal with Ben Simmons not being able to shoot a freaking basketball in his 5th year in the league. This should have been happened 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, even when he came in the league, like as like learning point guard, or like when he just started being point guard.
I think where the difference is that like you're 100% correct. Our player development has been putrid for the past, since Brett Brown has been here. We haven't been developing players in the way that we should have.
And I blame Brett Brown for a lot of it.
Yeah, I think, but the main thing is that the process is more so like a team management view standpoint. Like it's about team management. It's not about like coaching.
It's almost looking at players like assets rather than actual people. To be honest.
Like if we were really doing the process, you'd think that like the process move would have been after Ben's rookie year, realizing that he's not developing and trading him for like a huge haul at that point. It wouldn't have been trying to develop him. It would have been realizing that he's not developing and then trading him then.
You got to remember though,
way of
like
looking at it almost like it is process way, but like it. I think we should have. I think the better move because of how athletic this guy is. Like I don't think you're ever gonna get. Do you think we would have got a guy more athletic than Ben?
I mean,
I don't know. We could have gotten somebody really good.
I don't know. Here's my take. Here's my take on it. Right. I feel like you got to remember, because with the process being more like theory based and like looking at like guys like assets rather than like player, like I feel like there are some side effects that come along with it, right? Like it's a whole losing mentality to start with. So to kind of have that culture ingrained where it's like, all right, guys, just you're giving the postmortem speech before the game even starts. Like that has some effect on the guys that are there, even though they're being moved around. That's just
entirely false, because when we were in the process, that wasn't the mindset. The mindset was that we had the team that we have, and we're going to try as hard as we can to win. It was just that they didn't want to unnecessarily pay like a free agent for 3 years just to increase our wins a couple of whatever. We won as many games as we won, and we tried to win as many games as we could. It wasn't about losing games. It wasn't like, let's go out here and lose these games. It was, let's go out and try to win. We just weren't able to win.
Because we were selling everybody that was good, basically.
I don't think necessarily. We weren't selling. We were trying to keep people for the future. We just weren't paying people to win like 2 extra games.
That's what I was getting at. Like we're not like building the team as a championship team at that time. It's just like the team is what it is.
The mindset was like, go out there, play as good as you can, try to get as good as you can, and try to win the game. It wasn't like go out and lose. It was try to go out and develop your game and try to win.
That's why the process actually yielded a ton of crazy second round developed players that became like players in the NBA.
It was just
they got that floor time.
The culture of the Sixers at that time, I don't think was toxic when we were going through the process. I think a lot of the players were like very positive.
So we kind of have to get back to the question though. Like, are we going to go back to the question? Like, did it work or did it bust?
So here's my one liner, right? I feel like Elton Brand and Colangelo failed the process. But I don't think the process failed us, or I don't think the process failed. In what its goal was, I don't think the process failed.
That's accurate.
I think I was gonna say that's actually pretty accurate.
I think the process ended a long time ago, but gave us a treasure trove of like good things, good assets, and like it put us in a really good position.
So those were my next
much better position than
those were my
imagined during that time.
Those were my next questions then. So
some to say can't start processing again.
For me, I thought the process was going to end with us being significantly better than this. And I think that if we had actually followed through on the process and not gave up on it like little babies, like 3 years in, we would have been much better than this right now.
Got caught in the middle. But with that said, Jackson, you said it ended with the leave of Hinkie. I would agree with that. I would say that's probably, I feel like there was some overlay where it's like, okay, you have Embiid and Ben now, so it's like I guess you can still like it's technically it's not the process in motion, but it's just the results of what the process got us. But Flay, did you have a different idea in mind as far as this process not being over yet? I thought you mentioned that earlier today.
I think you guys summed it up more accurately, where we're kind of like watching the fruit of the process. But
I think the process was successful.
Turning.
I was going to say, I think
I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
like, what I almost think what like Flay's saying is that like the process is still going on in a way that this is now the end of it, where it's like the championship is in sight kind of thing. Like, like we're a contender every year. We have a maybe not the
Well,
best
yes,
chance, but
but
like a chance. We're a contending team. We're getting the second round. We're
the process is, again, it's more of like a front office thing, and that is not happening anymore.
Well, let's
oh, okay.
real
Like Jackson said,
real
yeah.
quick, Jackson, because I want to kind of hit
I
this
guess I was
point.
looking at more like a broad, like the process is like end game championship.
And I think that's partly why our result of what our consistency is in the second round playoffs being like the highest, peak for some reason is because that process was stopped when it was. And so I feel like we're in this space where it's like, all right, we didn't get all the pieces that we wanted. Like if the process was continued, maybe we do get that fourth or fifth all-star that we can rely on in a point guard or like we said, we had it in Miles Bridges. So like I feel like it was halted at the wrong time. And so these are the results that were dealt with, second round playoffs where we should have at least a third guy who's on the same status as Embiid and Ben Simmons.
It's almost like we kind of had to settle for Toby, even though I know he's a good player.
Yeah, because I don't think Toby's that guy. Like I just don't feel that.
He's a great player, but is he like a max player in like the sense of like what he like should be? It's like kind of like pulling hairs. Like he puts up
Just
20
don't
plus
feel
points
it.
a game, but he's not an all-star. I mean, he's very close to an all-star, and maybe arguably should have been an all-star, but he's like, he's not.
I do not think Toby's the problem. I think Toby.
No, I don't think he's a problem either. I'm just saying,
Not a
like,
problem,
we got a
but
better guy.
I think Toby is very good for what he is. He's clearly not like, some like absolute beast on the court, which is what we were hoping for with the process. I think I was gonna say ultimately maybe the process failed in that like we had a vision, we didn't go through with the vision. It gave us a lot of good things. I think the process was like bringing us up a peak, and we got a lot of like assets and stuff. And then Colangelo and Elton Brand took over. They brought it down. They sort of like smashed everything to bits, lost all of our assets, and now we have Daryl Moore. Like we obviously were still in good positions, but we were just bleeding assets to get into those positions and sacrificing our future for the now. And we're now in the future, and the now didn't work. So now we have a good GM again who is like trying to just take what we still have from the process, which is still good. It's just not as good as we wanted it to be, and take that and morph it into something better.
I think Jackson just explained Back to the Future too. But it makes sense. I feel like if in anything in life, right? If you start building something and you're halfway done and you just stop, like that's what you're left with when you don't follow. That's what you're left with when you just don't follow through.
It's like Star Wars.
Bottom line, we were 2 feet in at one point, and then we took 1 foot out at some point in the middle of it, and this is what we're left with.
Now we're caught in the middle.
Yeah,
it's exactly like Star Wars. Weren't like the first three movies, same director, it's great. Last 3 movies, 3 different directors, it's a complete mess.
Well, let's talk future and
okay. Well,
forward.
like Pops always said, if you got 1 foot in yesterday and 1 foot in tomorrow, you're pissing on today. So
this is gonna be a long episode, and honestly, rightfully so. Because there's a lot to talk about with this
buckle
game.
in. It's really buckle in.
Pod.
Yeah.
Buckle in. Settle in, and we'll get you through it. So we're talking vision and mission, right? Like any other company in any other industry, this is how we do it. You set it from a strategic level so that we can execute on the tactical level. So vision, right? What do we see for the future of the Sixers? And question number 1, do we currently have the tools we need to win it all?
No.
No,
we do not.
No,
quite clear.
Quick nose around the board. Okay.
Clearly.
We're all on the same page there. So the next question then is, who is the centerpiece right now that's going to help us win it all? And I have the 2 guys strategically on the screen for you.
I mean, this is a ridiculous question.
It's Embiid, dude.
Obviously, it's Embiid. Even though I'm not trying to like just say that like Ben Simmons has like had a bad series and he's been a letdown lately. It's hard to even pick anybody in the NBA over Embiid. So it's like it's not even like it's on Ben Simmons like being like a letdown. Yeah. It's just Embiid's that great.
Obviously, Embiid's centerpiece.
Okay.
You can't be the MVP and not be the centerpiece of the team.
And guys, I don't mean to ask you stupid questions because I'm right there with you, but
No, these are good questions that I feel like everybody needs to like.
No, Brits. I don't know if you heard it this week. I'm gonna call his name out. Ike Reese. What are you talking about, dude? Bad take. Because you want to hear what this guy said? He said, "Let's see what Embiid is before we move on from Ben. Let's see if he still gets injured or if he's broken parts." It's the worst take I've heard from him ever.
He is so dug into this former athlete mentality, obviously, because he is a former athlete, obviously. So it's like, I mean, I shouldn't even say athlete. He's a former Philadelphia Eagle. Like, he is dug in on this point where it's like, this guy needs to be able to just do everything. Like, he needs to just go out there. He's the MVP of the league. He needs to go out there and win the game for us. Any mistakes he makes is on him. There's nothing around him that he should be able to fight through anything. It's ridiculous. You shouldn't, especially a center in the NBA nowadays with his size. You're asking him, even though that he is a all-time center, maybe like best center ever, like minus like Shaq. Like he is unbelievably talented with ball handling, and we've never seen a guy be able to do what he can do. And he still is like. And in the NBA, in nowadays, is so hard for a center to be that guy, and he's still that guy, and we're still busting on him. It's crazy.
It's absurd. No, part of his take was the whole injury thing. Like, what if he doesn't have many years left? And then also the maturity.
That's why
thing.
We gotta take advantage of him, Mike.
Yeah.
Well,
and put a good team around him because he's so fucking good, and he's only gonna be good for so long.
He also brought up the maturity thing, which I thought was a really, really bad take. Like, oh, he didn't come out after Game 4 or Game 5 and talk to the media. Like, he kind of had his head down. Like, just a stupid take. And here's the reason why.
Focus on winning the rest of the series, Ike.
This is the reason why you're Embiid. You keep Embiid. No, like, also just how attractive it is to get players to come play for you when you have Embiid versus like people will come and play for Embiid. People, if you have just Ben, people aren't going to come to play with just Ben.
Jimmy Butler left because of Ben.
They're going to come to play with Embiid. You can't win without Embiid, and he's probably the best player in this league right now. So, with the only flaw, like I mentioned earlier, is in the fact that he's just not a closer, but he does literally everything else.
It's hard to be a closer at the position he plays and the stature that he is.
And I'm not even. It's like the only flaw I can come up with, and that's like me just trying hard to like think of things, but. So bad take. So that's why I had.
Even then, he shoots at a closer clip. As far as his regular stats go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He's effectively, he's like shooting. He pretty much shoots like 60% from inside like 15 feet.
I actually wanted I was talking about like how like Embiid is like probably one of the best players in the NBA right now, which he definitely is. It's hard to like look at this now because like I think we talked about it a couple episodes ago about Kevin Durant.
Hindsight.
Hindsight. Maybe Kevin Durant is a better piece of your team. Just because of how the NBA works.
Are you saying right now, or are you saying in the future too?
I'm saying just in general.
Okay.
I thought about it more and more as the center and how Embiid is like asked to play like in the game. Because like you can't keep him at the 3-point line like all the time like we have like been doing because we're asking him to run the ball. I mean, obviously, if he had a player like like a prolific point guard like Dame or whatever around him, he'd be unbelievable. But like, it's just so hard to ask a guy like Joel Embiid to win you games like by himself. Kevin Durant does it because he is that kind of player.
Yeah, and he can pull up and shoot the three.
He can do whatever. He's like kind of like an all-time guy. So like maybe I kind of like retract my statement about like maybe we would want like a Kevin Durant over an Embiid, but like obviously it's like I don't know. I just thought I wanted to bring that up just because I was thinking about it.
If I wake up tomorrow and the Sixers trade Kevin Durant or Embiid for Kevin Durant, I'm taking a pitchfork to fucking Wells Fargo, dude. Like.
Yeah.
Straight up, I think it's insane what you're saying because you're saying that
Kevin Durant. What the hell are you talking about?
The way that
you're 50 points in back-to-back games, guys.
Okay, but the way that you're describing Kevin Durant is somebody who can do it himself, all by himself, and put the team on his back and win a championship, which is something that he's literally never done in his entire career. He tried to do it this year with James Harden, and he failed. He tried to do it with the Thunder, and he failed. Embiid is much younger than him. He has much longer career ahead of him, hopefully barring injuries. And he's not. It's not like yeah, obviously he hasn't done it himself, but neither has Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant had to go to the Warriors to do it. He literally gave up on his team.
Okay, I think you missed like most of what I said. I'm saying that I think what Joel Embiid has doesn't have the point. Like I'm talking about our team. I'm not talking about like players like just having them. I'm saying our team. Okay, like our team is not built for Joel Embiid to carry this team. If we had a point guard, like I said like a couple seconds ago, if we had a point guard that is able to like run the offense and have Joel Embiid like catch the ball and like in the paint and then score, he's not the guy to just literally own the game. It's
yeah, I think if what Britt's saying too is if there was a starting piece, you would start with Kevin Durant, and then it's like, okay, great, now you have Joel Embiid like to do what he does without having to be the closer.
Look what Shaq did, man. Like I mean, it was
no.
and Shaq.
I mean that's just wrong. Embiid is a center. Like Embiid is a center.
He is a centerpiece.
Yeah.
He is a centerpiece.
Embiid is a #1 player on
say he
a
wasn't a
championship team
centerpiece.
still, you know?
Can I phrase
I feel like
poor Brits,
what you're
poor
kind of
Brits.
saying though, Brits, is you're just saying that you need a #1 and Embiid has to be a #2. That's literally what you're just saying right there by saying you need Kevin Durant and then
I
Embiid.
didn't say that at all.
I understand what Brits is saying. Brits is trying to say that the way our team is constructed right now, we need somebody who can catch fire at the end of the games and win the game at the end of the game, because both of them can score in the beginnings of the game, and Kevin Durant's better at scoring at the end of the game. What I think is ridiculous about this whole situation is that if we want to win a championship, we're not going to do it by counting on one player to just shoot a bunch of shots at the end of the game and win it for us. That's ridiculous.
And I don't think that's what Brits is saying, but yeah, go ahead. Keep
but
going.
like he's saying, the way our team's constructed right now, we need somebody to, basically win the game for us at the end of the game, and he'd rather have Durant.
He doesn't even have to be our best player. I'm saying, like that guy, he would just have to be a kind of guy like that.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say is that, like, at this point, realistically, Embiid is our centerpiece. Everybody can agree on that except for Ike Reese, and Ike Reese is an idiot for not agreeing to that.
I wasn't trying to say get rid of Joel Embiid. I was like kind of going back to an old take what we were talking about with like the very best player in the NBA.
Go sit next to
I understand that, but I think what we should be talking about is realistically what can we do, because we're in a situation right now.
Thank you for asking.
We're in a situation right now because
I veered off. That's my bad.
Ben Simmons is clearly hated by the city right now, and a lot of people want to trade him. If we trade him for pennies on the dollar, which is what we're going to do if we do trade him for like somebody like McCollum, it's not going to make us a better team. We're going to go down on defense, and we're going to go up on offense, but we're still not going to be in a position where we're like a beast of a team, which is what we want to be. I think realistically, we need to build around the team that we have now. I don't think you can get Dame Lillard for Ben Simmons. I think that's absolutely insane.
Jackson,
not without giving up your entire future.
You had to jump the animation, but thank you for a good transition. So we answered the first question. We don't have what we currently need to win it. We have Joel Embiid as the centerpiece. So question number 3 and the final question, what do we need to do to get there? So is it Dame? Is it, as Jackson said, not CJ McCollum? What kind of trade does it have to be? And if it is a trade, when does that trade need to happen? Because I don't think you're doing that trade right now. I don't think there's no way in hell you're doing it, because you would be selling low in what Ben has in value right now.
It's almost impossible to do it right now because of how low his stock is.
And if you listen to Daryl Morey, he said literally, having Ben Simmons be able to add to his game and having that, even though it's not guaranteed to happen, just the opportunity for him to grow his game and have that increase our team's value, it's just such an opportunity to have, because the situation that we're in, we can't really trade Ben Simmons. We don't want to trade Embiid. It would be weird to trade Tobias because I don't think we're going to get like enough value back to make our team better. We're in like a situation, like a really bad situation right now, where we kind of are just stuck with the team that we have, and we just kind of have to hope, I think, that Simmons gets better or trade him for like. I just don't realistically see who we could trade him for that would make us that much better for us to be the favorite. It's like, I don't know, unless you're trading him for like Zach LaVine, or if you want to trade him for future picks, that's cool. But then Embiid's going to be older when those picks pan out, so it's like that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
So I have a take on this in a comparison and see if you guys agree with me. Because I agree, Jackson. You can't sell low, and what a lot of people are coming out and they're saying like, oh, Ben Simmons is going to be traded before the next season even starts. That's literally not what he said. He's basically saying that right now you only have, if you were to trade right now, you have one option, right? You you basically sell Ben Simmons low and get nothing back. You have two options. If he comes back next season, grows his game, and it's either, okay, one, you have a good Ben Simmons at his game, or two, you now have value that you can actually trade and get something back. So the only problem I see is that when Ben Simmons inevitably gets back to the same position and is successful and gets his game back, which I think he will, even with us, I think Sixers fan base is going to buy in again. We're going to get to the playoffs, and then we're going to be pissed off at him again.
It's not getting his game back. It's improving his game immensely. That's what we need him to do.
I'm saying getting back to where he was in this year's regular season.
He's a regular season player. He's definitely going to be great.
That's the problem.
And that is what I'm saying. That's what he will get back there inevitably.
The problem is he can make no changes to his game, and then in the regular season he's going to be playing just as good.
Yeah,
because there's no pressure. There's no pressure.
It's the mental thing.
Theoretically, that's good because then like his value will go up. But also theoretically, it's bad because it's like it can lull us into like a false sense of security with him, or even him into a false sense of security, where he doesn't think that he needs to get better.
And honestly, I thought about it this year. I was thinking to myself, like because Ben had some bad games this year when he was coming back from an injury, and he like literally wasn't shooting the ball, and I was so pissed at him that I was just like, he's going to get good again. He's going to get his game back, and that's when we should trade him. But then when he got his game back, I was like, oh no, we got to keep him. He's Ben Simmons. I love him. So it's like it's a false sense of hope. But here's the comparison I was actually thinking about. Zach Ertz, kind of a similar situation, right? Because it's kind of like you can't get anything for him. So you rather just have him on the team and that make more of an impact rather than just get rid of him for nothing. Similar comparison or no?
I think it's similar.
I think it's more so similar to like it's kind of similar to Wentz, except I think that Ben has a greater chance of like succeeding in the city if he works on his game. I feel like it's like a situation where like it's like if we needed Carson Wentz to play good and our only option was to just hope Carson Wentz played better. Because like we aren't in the situation where we can just trade him like we traded Carson Wentz and just be like, okay, we're gonna get better now because like our window is so small. We can't just close this window. That would be ridiculous.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah.
I actually had an interesting name to bring up for Ben Simmons. I'm not sure if it's possible, but what about Bradley Beal? He just signed an extension, I'm pretty sure. So I'm not sure how that works, but trying to get a guy like Bradley Beal on our team would be, I think, an immense upgrade.
Bradley Beal would be good, but I think we still need a point guard if we have Bradley Beal,
Yeah, because Beal's more of a shooting guard, right?
Beal would take like Seth Curry's spot.
But don't you think
you need someone who's going to have the ball in their hand? But then that poses the biggest threat. He does have the ball in his hand
a lot, though, in the playoffs.
Ben Simmons as a whole.
Yeah, no, it's come up in the conversation before.
We kind of are in a situation where like I feel like all our eggs right now are in the development of Ben Simmons, Tyrese Maxey, and Matisse Thybulle. If they can get better, we'll be good. If one of them can become a starter.
Stocks crashed and you need them to go back up.
And granted, Ben Simmons is only 24 years old.
It's just, I mean, that it almost like
Sorry,
you're right.
Matisse is 24.
No, you're right that like, obviously Ben Simmons is 24 years old. He's very young, but the window is so much smaller because of Joel. That's where this whole thing comes in. We need to win within the next.
That's fair.
3 years, maybe. That's like maybe even pushing it then. Who knows? Like with the way his body's been taking a toll.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's our age, which is crazy to think about.
It's pretty sad, but I agree. I think it's better to hope for Ben to improve than to hope for Carson. I think Carson was lost. I think he had nothing left in the tank. So, yeah.
Well,
moving
we'll
on.
see with the Colts.
Are you guys ready? Are you guys ready to bring your game? A little 2v2 action?
Not really.
Not ready? Really?
I feel like you guys are way more hyped up for this than me and Jackson are.
Well, then you'll lose. Inevitably. The Battle of Ben. But before that, what's your strategy for the future of the Sixers? All right. So just tell me.
We talked about it mostly, but
not you, Brits. I got enough. I got enough from you. I'm asking the crowd.
Enough from you, dude.
I'm talking to the listeners out there. So if you got your own strategy that's not ours, just don't take a page out of Brits' book and actually pay attention and give us your strategy.
Feel free to tell us how bad Brits' strategy was.
Yeah, to the listeners. Okay. The Ben battle. All right, let's do it. So a couple ground rules before we get started. I'll tell you guys how these work, how this is going to work.
I hate this picture of me.
So basically,
I don't know where that hat is definitely photoshopped on my head.
No, it's not. So basically, we're going to argue Ben Simmons points. Okay, different questions I got listed here.
We got questions. I like that.
You get a point. Your team gets a point if you sway the other team at all
Get
to believe in your argument. So that's how you get points.
So we got gotta be brutally honest here.
I'll list 3 questions to start. One team will pick the topic. The other team can pick who they want to go first, which team. And then I was going to be gracious and say, Jackson, as a little B-Day gift, give you guys a point to start off with, unless you guys don't want handouts and want to take us on fair and
We
square.
don't want handouts. I don't want a handout.
No party
Handouts.
favors.
No,
Okay.
no party favor.
No party favors. All right. So it's the Benablers in Jackson Belko and Austin Kefley in the left corner versus the It's Been Realists in Brits and myself in the right corner. So here's the questions, guys. Is Ben an all-star / elite basketball player? 2, should we trade Ben Simmons? And 3, do you believe he can turn his game around?
So what are we starting with?
So Jackson, does your team want to pick?
I think we need a clarification on should we trade Ben Simmons? Like when? Like when are you asking about that? Should we trade him before next season? Should we trade him next season?
Well, should we? I feel like we start question by question.
It's really just a yes or no for me. Like, do we trade him at all in the future?
Okay.
So do you guys want to pick a question to start with, and then
Flay, you choose.
We'll go.
What was the first one again?
Is Ben an all-star elite basketball player?
Yeah, let's start with that.
That's a good one to start with. I like that.
Okay.
All right,
Sure.
let's get your guys' takes on this. I don't know exactly what my take is.
Okay. That gives us the upper hand, I think, if they don't know what their take is.
Who's they?
You want to start, Caputi?
You want me to start? Okay.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Is Ben an elite player? No, but he can be. Will he unlock that potential as a yes or no? Where I'm at right now,
I feel like that's question 3. You're getting ahead of yourself.
Well, I'm elaborating. Let me explain. Will he reach that potential? My answer is no, and here's why. Brits, you were going back to Brett Brown and the development and not getting him in the place where he can shoot. We've seen it. I don't think Jackson thinks he's seen it in that progression from Brett to Doc, that he has been shooting more, at least 3 points, just shooting in general. I think it's more on the player than the coach working with Ben to get him to reach his potential. I think the guy is just not only is he unable right now, but he's also unwilling. And so if you're doing anything in a job, right? If you're not able to do it, at least be willing to learn and get better and grow. I don't think Ben is even willing to be that person. I feel like he's got this other, he's got this all-star fantasy in bed, of, he could be a top player and just stick to his own game. And that's just who he is. Like, he doesn't need to improve, and he can be just the same old Ben Simmons. We know he can do a lot more. I think he can. But with that said, I just don't think he has the attitude to be an elite player. Again, it's 1, he's unable to do it. But 2, he's unwilling to learn and get better to actually take the shots. And 3, he has a bad attitude about it. It's a smugness that's, I think, really like tripping me up. Like, to go out consistently and just say, like, fans, people who are hating on me right now, you have no idea what you're talking about because you never played NBA basketball. Sure, but like, there's also a lot of basketball analysts who've been watching the game for a long time and do know what they're talking about. So just to come out and have that bad attitude, I think it's going to slow him down from being what he can truly be.
Well, that's like a pretty good segue to what I was like kind of like getting back to. One of our first episodes, I think it was, I talked about how Ben Simmons' attitude was bad. There's 2 people here who disagree with me with that. And I think it's ridiculous that we overlooked it. I mean, he literally, all he did was talk about how he's Defensive Player of the Year. He's an All-Star. He's this great player, and he looked like he was in the regular season. But I questioned whether he could carry that on to the playoffs. He did not. Not even close. It wasn't even defensively he was good. Maybe not as great as we wanted him to be, but he was good. It's hard to be prolifically great in the playoffs because it's hard to stop those great players from scoring. But to answer the question, Ben Simmons is not elite. It's obvious that he's not elite. you can't be elite and score 5 points in a game 7. It's just you would never call that guy elite ever. He's unaggressive. He is unable to shoot the basketball from any point really. He's mentally weak. There's just a
All right, we
miles.
get the point. We get the point.
There's a miles
A
long
mile long
there's a
list
mile long list of why he's not
of,
elite, and it's just he's not an elite player.
Your 15 seconds is up, Brits. All right.
Can we hear the rebuttal, lawyer Flay?
I've got one.
So
Go.
I'm gonna pose that Ben Simmons is an elite player who does not have the killer instinct, the Mamba mentality. I think we've seen that he has the skills and the potential to put up elite numbers. We've seen him put up 40-point games. We've seen him play all defense. That's actually something we don't have to worry about at all. You've seen even this regular season that he's improved his foul shot. So it's only coming down to these mental scenarios. And I think you could probably make an argument that overall it's kind of like two things that go hand in hand. But I think that there's the potential that he is elite, and I think he's just missing the mentality, that killer instinct part.
I personally think that Ben Simmons is currently a low-end all-star that is not yet elite, but has shown flashes of being elite. I think that he has just been absolutely exposed this playoff series in what I would only assume is the most difficult time of his life that he's faced yet, with his whole family situation that's currently going on, which I think could probably take his mind out of the game and put him in such a bad mental state where he's kind of like iffy mentally, and then everybody's like locking down on him and his game's getting exposed. So it's just like he's like in this downward spiral right now. I think that when he's in the regular season, he's very clearly an all-star. I think he's very clearly elite. He can put up like 40 plus points. He gets rarely he'll put up 40 plus points, but he can do it.
Joel though.
Yes, he gets triple doubles like it's nothing. He has elite defense. He can guard 1 through 5. I think he with minor adjustments to his game, being more aggressive, working on his foul shot, extending his range, I think he could become an elite player. I think he has the capability of doing it. I think that he is a person who has been very coddled, and everybody his whole life has been telling him he's so great, and he's been sort of in situations that would reinforce that. I think that right now, with him being so exposed and broken down, he's probably at his lowest point he's ever been. And I think that if he doesn't see it in himself to work on his game now, he never will.
But is he an elite player right now?
I don't think that's the question. I think it's whether he's an all-star, and I think he's a low-end all-star.
No, the question was,
well,
is he an all-star?
Yeah.
And is he
Caputi threw a bunch of different terms out there with no definition of it.
I mean, define elite then. So
No,
I
he's
mean,
clearly not elite right now. If he was elite, he wouldn't be able to be game planned against and completely stopped.
So he's not elite.
So
I don't think that was the question. He asked whether he's an all-star. Was he voted for the all-star? Yes.
It was both.
I mean, okay, so it's assuming that you're basically a star, not
The
just
questions don't make any sense, man.
Okay, all right. I just don't know how you don't understand what
you can't argue that Ben Simmons is elite right now. I think that's crazy. He's clearly not elite, because I think elite is like top 10 players in the league.
I mean, I mean, what it sounds like, it's a point to the bit. It's been realist, but
that's fine, dude. Like,
I don't think anybody's mind was swayed in this.
It's so funny because people like
Caputi
and Brits, I feel like, are almost like relishing in the overall misery of this team.
I'm not even.
Of Ben
oh
Simmons,
my god!
I agree.
Poor performance.
Okay, let's argue that.
I'm relishing the fact that I was right. I'm not relishing the fact that he cost us this fucking championship.
Yeah, no, I agree. I concur.
I just don't think you can say he cost us this championship if at the end of the day, when he was on the floor, he had a positive plus minus.
Jackson, come on, man.
We were up when he was on.
There's a reason why.
Yeah, I mean, also Ben
Simmons
didn't. Yeah, I mean, but he also didn't single-handedly swing us 18 and 26 points either. So
He didn't, but then again, you guys also agreed last week when I said if he makes a few free throws that we win another game, and that could be the difference of the series.
That's cool,
So
but again, like it shouldn't come down to free throws,
It's just-
especially when you have
It-
26 and 18
But it
point leads.
always does
Yeah,
in the
it's like-
playoffs.
but it did.
But
It's
it
just
always
nonsense though,
does.
because like if Ben Simmons makes a
Doesn't
few more
always
free
come
throws,
down to
yeah,
that.
Did
we
it
win
last
the series.
night.
If
The Suns game.
Korkmaz doesn't shoot like 25% from 3, yeah, we win the series. If Tobias Harris doesn't have a shitty
Yeah, you could
like,
cherry
game,
pick
we win
any
the
one
series.
little
If
thing that
Embiid doesn't have a
happens.
million turnovers, we win the series. It's like if Seth Curry doesn't play such bad defense, we win the series. It's like
If we
everybody
played
has
perfect
something that's-
basketball,
He's a
we'd win
number
the
2
championship.
All-Star against the Hawks, who shouldn't even be here
These
right
are
now.
four scoring options.
According to you,
Oh
he's
my
not an
God.
all-star, so it sounds like we should have a point for the Benablers because
He-
you just
he-
admitted all-starness.
He made the
Lawyer
All-Star team
glasses are
over
on.
Devin
Lawyer
Booker.
glasses are on, Caputi. Chalk that point up, baby.
He didn't
He-
make the All-Star team over Devin Booker because Devin Booker is in the West and we're in the East.
Oh well, whatever. Well, you know what you still know what I meant. Like he made the team, and Devin Booker didn't make his respective team.
You can't be the second best defender in the league and not make the All-Star team.
Okay. Well, either way, he's not the difference that's going to push us over the hump to get us to a championship because he doesn't have that status. He can't carry that leadership. He's clearly mentally broken into pieces. Like can't shoot the ball in the fourth quarter to save
Can't shoot
his
the ball
life.
at all.
Like literally,
It's just like
he's afraid
every
of
postseason.
the
Every
game.
postseason, he's been like not this. He's been not that good, but he's been like okay. And then this postseason, when he has like the worst family drama you could possibly have, he's bad. It's like you can't even give him some slack.
Oh man,
Eh,
dude.
you keep
Wasn't he
going
hurt
there,
last
but
year
it's
for the
like-
playoffs too?
Yeah, he was hurt last year.
Last year wasn't even.
And
in the
when
business.
we were bounced.
Brits, this is just typical Benablers finding every possible excuse out there in the book to try to support this guy.
I feel like
You try
we
living with your family and having
where
your
he
family
has-
collapse around
where
you while
his-
you're playing in the
where
playoffs
his-
and have this much pressure.
We also acknowledge where his like downfalls as a player is. It's just not. It doesn't have the overall effect that you guys are blaming
It
this
does
entire
though
series
because
on him.
it's literally an offensive league, and when you're talking about a guy being your second best player and he's only playing defense, what do you mean? Like you can't win with that. He's your second best player. He's supposed to be your second best player. He's only playing defense. He's not scoring at all.
If the question is Ben Simmons good enough as your second best player to win you a championship? Nobody's saying yes currently. Can he be that good? Yeah, I think me and Flay both think that if he improved his game drastically, he could. But I don't think we're saying that he's going to be like
drastically. And you said he's not elite right now. You said that. Okay.
So he's not elite.
Then, what are we arguing?
When you pose a question, is he an all-star? And then change the question to, is he elite after we all say that he's not elite? That's fucked up.
So,
Also,
sorry.
this all just started because I just said that
redefine,
you guys are just
redefine.
taking this. We're on to the next question. Chalk the point, whatever.
No, I
This
don't-
all
That's a
started
zero
because
point. That's a zero
You
point.
guys are
No-
just
nobody
you guys
gets a
are just
point for that.
using this as an example.
Oh my
and,
God.
you guys are just,
Brits, I thought they would understand that elite all-star meant like, the top 10, top 20 players of the game.
You didn't say elite all-star. You said, is he an all-star?
No, he didn't.
Elite
He actually
slash all-star. I
said
mean,
elite
Jesus
as well.
Christ. What does that mean? I mean, come on, guys. What are we arguing?
If you're asking, is he an all-star? Yes.
God damn.
If you're asking, is he elite? Then everybody's on the Ben realists.
Okay, because you're arguing all-star because of his amazing defense, and that's fair, but that's all-around player is what I'm going at here.
Okay, then change the question.
Oh my God. Oh my
Next
God.
question,
All right,
dude.
we'll chalk up the
Seriously.
question.
All right. So do you believe he can turn it around? Which we kind of argued, but
Yes. I think he can, but this is his last year. I mean, I think I agree with Jackson that he's at rock bottom, basically. If you can't, and again, I've said this in the past. We've seen the videos of him in the gym putting in the work. I don't think it's that he doesn't work. I just don't think that he is necessarily putting himself with the type of people who are giving him the best advice or working him in the right way.
so I mean, shouldn't Ben recognize that? Shouldn't he recognize that he needs to work with the right guys? Like some of this has to fall on him to be willing to find the right shooting coaches and to be put in the better place. Like, yeah, you can post him shooting free threes all day in a local gym somewhere all you want, but he's never going to do that in the game because the pressure is too big for him. Too big in the regular season for the threes, way too big for him to shoot any other, mid-range shot in the playoffs.
I mean,
Probably needs a sports therapist, if anything.
that's true. He definitely needs that.
If
Yeah.
Aguilar was able to turn his career around,
Yeah.
then Ben Simmons
Okay.
can turn his career around. It's like if your question is can he improve based on like how he played this series? Yeah, obviously he's like a 60% free throw shooter, which isn't good, but he's not a 30% free throw shooter, and he's never been a 30% free throw shooter in the playoffs, has he?
No,
Well,
this is his
now he
worst year
has.
this is his worst year by far. But
he's definitely regressed in that sense.
But like if you're talking about like improve, like is it improve on this series? Because like this series, like you can't go any worse.
Let's define that then. Improve from his regular season, Ben.
Yes, I think with work he can improve. I think if you think that somebody can't improve with work, that's nuts. It's like
no, but him as a person.
But it takes the guy who has to put in the work to do it.
Because he hasn't improved since he's gotten in the league.
Yeah, I think Ben, somebody who values himself so highly, he literally values himself higher than like most people do. He's not a humble person at all. I think for him to get completely broken down like this, he's gonna have to really question who he is. I think when they asked him what he needs to work on, he said literally everything. It's like, I don't know. I just think that I know I'm harping on this, but I think he was in a bad spot before the playoffs started. I think that he got exposed. I think you can't really once you've been exposed, you can't like unexpose yourself just instantly, like put in the work in like 2 days. I think it's ridiculous to think that somebody in this position wouldn't work their ass off to get better.
I don't think it's ridiculous. I don't think it's ridiculous because I think he's worked on his game. Like nobody doesn't go in the offseason and not play basketball. He's obviously shooting in the offseason. He's obviously working on his foul shots. He's obviously working on his three-pointer. He's working on all his aspects of his game. Every single player in the NBA does that. If you don't do that, then you're a ridiculous person. That's more ridiculous. But do I think that he can actually come into the games, be better than what he is now? Like be better than what he was like at his best points? No, I actually don't think he can. I think he is what he is. I think we found out that he is what he is. I think once he gets to the playoffs, he's going to regress like he has every single other postseason. Every single other postseason, he's regressed stats-wise. It's happened every single year. So I think it's ridiculous to say that he will be a better, like if not even just a better player, the key to our team in winning a championship. It's not him.
I just feel like Ben Simmons is at a point where his career is hanging in the balance of whether or not he improves. And I think that it's never been that way. It's always been Ben Simmons did bad and he needs to like improve, but it's been like not harped on to this extent. And I think that like, yeah, everybody was freaking out about him not shooting threes and he shot 3, but like, it's never been like his career is over if he doesn't improve, you know? And I think, I don't know. I don't see how him in that scenario wouldn't work on his game. Like if second round draft picks who stink are able to work on their game and get better, I think Ben Simmons with all the athletic tools in this scenario has the ability to improve. I think anybody has the ability to improve. I agree with you that in the past he hasn't worked on it enough and he hasn't improved, and that would give this sense that like he can't improve. But I think it's ridiculous. I think any single person in the world could improve, and that he is any single person.
But that's a ridiculous way to look at it. That's anybody can improve. Obviously, anybody in the world has like the opportunity to improve. It's the opportunity that he already has. He already has the opportunity to improve. It is will he? And honestly, if we're talking about pressure situations, which he's been put into in this playoffs to the highest extent ever, he's in a higher pressure situation to improve, and he's already shown that he doesn't do well under pressure. So why would we think that he will do well under pressure in this offseason?
And I agree. I think it's completely pressure. I think it completely is a mental block. And that's why I understand he's went through some really fucked up shit this year. And Jackson, I really feel from the guy in that sense. Like, again, thinking back to that, you're right. I'm sure that really messed him up this year. But I think he's also had that mental block before this year. And I don't think it's because Ben necessarily doesn't care. I just think when he's playing the game, he has this thought in his head that, you know, he's afraid that his bad shot will lose the game and that there's better odds that somebody else who has the ball will score than he will. And he has to take away that mental block to be able to become that next LeBron, become that next, you know, elite player that goes down in the history books, not just some guy that's elite for, you know, the years that he plays the game. Like I think, and that's the problem. I just don't think he's going to remove that mental block. If he does, I think, like Britt said, he has the opportunity to do that. I think he's always had the opportunity to do that with his talent alone, with his, his athleticism. Like, I think that's all there. Because sometimes I do believe that you are limited by things in talent, right? I'm not going to go out and be the next best, singer in the world because I can't sing for shit. That's something that I can't improve on because I just don't have that talent. But Ben has that talent and he can improve and put the hard work in. I just don't think he's going to remove that mental block to be able to do it.
I just want to point out one little thing that I feel like revisionist history has been happening where like we're acting like at the end of every offseason, like the main point was like Ben needs to get better. Because like at the end of the Kawhi series, it wasn't like we lost the series because of Ben. We lost the series because of a bad bounce, and we could have won with Ben. And at the end of last season, it was like Ben was hurt, and it wasn't like Ben needs to get better. It's just like this is the first time where it's like this is the whole thing. It's like Ben needs to get better.
And I understand that. I get that. I get that the pressure has never been this high for him, and obviously maybe it will push him to that next level. But if you look at, like I said, like if you look at history, what player doesn't go and just try to get, if not a little bit better, just a lot better? Every single player in the NBA that is at the talent or at the talent peak that Ben Simmons could be doesn't go into the offseason thinking, I need to improve my game drastically. That's what every single player in the NBA that is at his like stardom level is doing. Not should be doing, is doing. All those, but he's not doing it.
One thing you have to understand is that like when he got into the league, he had to learn a new position point guard, and he worked over the offseason to learn point guard. When he got in the league, he was hurt. He got hurt again, and he
chose to do that.
He was hurt for like 3 off seasons.
He chose to become a point guard.
He chose to become a point guard. That was his choice.
That wasn't it. Brett Brown was like, "You're going to be the point guard," and he learned the point guard position, which was something that he worked on and he got better at. And then he learned. And then everybody's like, "You can't shoot threes," and he did shoot a couple threes. He learned and he got better at that. It's just like it's just a weird like combination of like him being hurt during off seasons and him working on his defense and him working on learning the position of playing point guard. It's like he worked on things and he got better. Maybe it wasn't free throw shooting. He has gotten a little bit better at free throw shooting, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he has gotten a little bit better, but it's like it's not that hard to get a little bit better from 50% to 60%. And also, he did say that he wanted to be a point guard when he came into this league. That's a fact. He wanted to be a point guard. That was his decision. It wasn't just Brett Brown saying he was going to be a point guard. Maybe he did say you're going to be the point guard, but he said he wanted to be a point guard in the NBA.
I don't know if I can verify that. But
I actually just looked it up before we did this podcast.
I think it's shut up Jackson long enough to give us a point if it's true. If verification required.
I'm just out on this. I'm just
you zoning?
Yeah.
It doesn't.
No,
I'm
giving up.
No,
Jackson, so Jackson, with the pressure, I think he'll settle somewhere. I think
all 3 of these questions are just leading and ridiculous.
I don't think that you can get a point because my whole point was that he has shown that he's improved in areas other than the area that you're talking about. Even 50% to 60%, that's a big jump, okay? And that's showing that you can improve. If he just keeps doing that, he's going to improve. This is just the first time where the entire focus is like of the offseason is Ben Simmons needs to get better because the current situation that we're in is that we can't do anything else with our team really to get better. Like the best opportunity that we have to get better is Ben Simmons improving. So our entire offseason should be focused on Ben Simmons improving. And that hasn't been the focus ever, is like having the entire offseason focused on Ben. And I think the fact that he has shown that he can improve even marginally in certain areas shows that he can improve. And with an entire focused offseason on him improving, that he will improve.
Yeah, but he improved in the regular season, and he regressed back to where he was, even worse in the postseason.
Yeah, and that's something he needs to work on, and I hope he can improve on.
I just feel like we're arguing in circles right now.
So how I foresee this playing out, I think Ben becomes Ben in the regular season. I think Morey deals him. I think he goes to somewhere like the Spurs, where Popovich loves him for his defense. And I think Ben settles, and he's okay with just continuing his game the way he is and not becoming anything more, anything less. That's how I foresee this playing out.
I think you fundamentally misunderstand Ben and his view of himself. I think he holds himself to such a high regard, and that if other people think he stinks, then he's not going to be happy, and he's going to have to work on that.
Well, we shall see. But in the meantime, I'll give the points to the bit.
I wouldn't expect Ben Simmons to be moved in the offseason, that's for sure.
I'll give you guys a point.
I mean, you're basing points on whether you swayed us, and you literally swayed none of us. So 5
Yeah.
points is complete nonsense.
It's for the joke of the pod. Don't get so upset. Don't get so upset, Jackson.
Yeah,
It's
these
just-
points were
it's just
he had
the
these
game.
points
I'm not
preset,
enabling
dude.
you, dude.
They're not preset. You guys can get points. Don't worry about it, Flay. But with that, Flay's been so mad with the questions that we've dealt, which I thought were pretty fair, to be honest.
we have one
But,
more?
if you want to go through it, it doesn't seem like you guys want to battle.
I'd be
Yeah, I'm
battling.
done, dude.
He gave
You
up.
can battle on a
Bailing
separate.
out.
You
Bailing
can
out.
battle
Well,
on a separate
bailing-
pod.
bailing-
I'll argue for Ben for the last one.
You can have a Ben
People
battle
like
on your own time.
People like Sports Center. People like to hear people argue. Let's argue.
Let's do it. This is the
let's
main.
get it.
dude,
This is the
this,
war.
I'm
this
out
is
on
this is the meat. This is the juice of the pod, dude. I don't know what you're talking about.
This is for the real fans that stuck around this long.
So we talked.
I'm
We
gonna- I'm
talked.
gonna
about to
promote
beat
this.
me out, dude. It's fucking.
I'm gonna promote this as like listen. You can watch the pod, but you gotta definitely go
Ding,
to the
ding,
last
ding.
point. You know.
That's what I'm saying. If you don't like our takes from earlier in the pod, go to the Ben fight. That's
Yeah.
all it is. We talked about elite all-star definition that Flay didn't like. Should we trade Ben? Did we talk about that one, or did we talk about? Do you believe he can turn it around?
We haven't talked about trading Ben. That's
we
the
haven't
last
talked
point,
about the
which I
trade,
think
so-
is very important.
Should we trade Ben Jackson?
This
Go.
one I think actually is like a middle ground almost that we might be able to come to.
I think
Yeah,
we all
I
agree
agree.
that we shouldn't trade Ben because his value is at his lowest, and
Right
if
now,
we are going
yeah.
to trade him, it needs to be when his value is higher. I don't think, as it stands right now, it makes sense to trade him. I think we need to see what we have. I think that obviously Maury, if he gets a good offer, is going to take it, and I don't think he'd be crazy to take it. But I think, yeah, like if he doesn't improve, yeah, we need to trade him. If he does improve, no, I wouldn't want to trade him.
Do I agree with that on when? Yeah, we definitely don't trade him now. I think, like we said earlier, I just don't want to get lured into this false sense of hope that Ben's going to improve in the playoffs, because you got to think, you got to want the right Ben in playoffs, not just the right regular season. I mean, you said it, Jackson. Even you said it, that Tobias said it, that regular season doesn't matter as much as the play. Well, clearly as much, but it really doesn't matter in itself. We need the right playoff Ben. I don't think we're going to get the right playoff Ben. So I think we do end up trading him just at his highest potential.
So you
Or we
think
should.
like a
Or we
trade
should.
deadline trade?
Yeah.
Yeah, trade deadline trade is probably where we're looking at right now. That's probably if we're looking at right now, that's probably the best move. But I think Daryl Morey is going to look at all options in this offseason. I think he is going to look at if he can get something that like we think as right now is a steal. Like he thinks he can get a point guard that will actually help this team. I'm not sure who it will be. Like, I mean, obviously, like everybody's been talking about Damian Lillard. I don't think that's possible right now. But I mean, if we can get something like that, he's gonna be looking for it. He's absolutely gonna be looking for it. You know he is. But
just reiterating his press conference, basically.
Personally,
but I'm saying like that's obvious though, because it's like you right. But I'm saying like if Ben didn't do this, we wouldn't be looking for a trade. You know what I mean? So obviously he's going like after this playoff series, he has to look at that now. And go ahead.
who would you like to trade him for? Because if I had an ideal trade, I feel like a trade that would maybe make sense is trading for somebody who's young and somebody who's like an upcoming player, you know? I feel like somebody like I think that the Thunder and Presti like to do deals. They right now they're like acquiring like every single first round pick in existence. I think that if we traded Ben and a couple first round picks for Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, maybe that would be a good trade.
I mean, I looked at that and I thought maybe like at first I thought against that just because he is like a younger guy. I just because I think like we need a guy that's kind of like almost proven to be able to like play on the playoffs, and like that he doesn't really have that experience. It's hard to look at players right now because before this I was looking at like higher tier players that were like proven, like that wanted out of like where they were, like Dame and Bradley Beal, who's like seems to be like in a place. I mean, he's not a point guard, but like he was like seems to be in a spot where he kind of wants like out of there. Even though I know he just signed that extension, it's kind of weird spot, but it's hard to put a name to it right now. Honestly, I don't have a name. I did before, and now like at this point, it's like I don't think I have a name, but I think what we need to do I think what you actually kind of said it right. We need to hopefully improve in the playoffs, or not the playoffs, the postseason, ups his game, plays in the regular season, does what he does, maybe even a little bit better, and maybe other GMs see more like, oh my God, he did improve and he is shooting more, and then it makes it tough because then it's like, do we keep him because he did improve or something like that? But if he doesn't like improve and he just is Ben as he was last season, then maybe we just dish him off for like I don't know, like.
Say it, Brits.
No, I don't. That's what I'm saying. I don't know, like, cause like there's
I
so
just
many
don't know.
there's so many younger guys in the league that's like we could get, but would they help our team right now? You know what I mean? That because we're looking at like a right now scenario, like I said with Joel's window.
I think due to path dependency, we sort of feel like stuck. It seems like we're priced out at the point where we can trade Ben Simmons for like an all-star, and then you sort of think like the best option would be to trade him for like a young player that could get better and could be like that like all-star, somebody who's like on the verge of breaking out.
Yeah.
One thing I think that would help with path dependency maybe is, would you guys be against sort of like trading both Ben and Tobias to open up like room for us to get somebody back for them maybe, and then also sign free agents?
I would not be against that, honestly. You could move one of the two of them, honestly, and either of them could still get you something that would get you farther than this.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Like, what if you traded them, got people back maybe, and then like I was just trying to think of a scenario where like, because I think if you trade Ben and then you get somebody who's not as good with Tobias, it still doesn't work. And if you trade Tobias and you get somebody who's not as good to work with Ben and Joel, it still doesn't work. But if you get rid of both of them and get two new people that could work together with Ben, it has a better chance of working. I mean, with Joel, it has a better chance of working.
Almost like if you were to basically give Ben and Tobias up today for Jimmy Butler.
That would be stupid as fuck after the playoff series you just had as well. So.
Yeah,
I
do like Jimmy Butler a lot. I would probably trade Ben for Jimmy, but
if we're looking at sending both of those guys, what about like, I don't know if they probably wouldn't be able to part ways with this guy, but what about like a Donovan Mitchell?
It's interesting, but they're not going to blow it up yet.
Yeah, it's like it's hard for that team to blow it up.
It's a little hard to do that. No, because I mean, I like what you're saying with looking for the younger guy, Jackson, because I feel like it's both teams taking a risk. Like we're looking for that guy to grow, and really kind of like the same thing with the other team for Ben, just looking to see if Ben can still be the guy that he was supposed to be. So I feel like each team's taking a risk, so maybe that other team would be willing to do that. I think they would. Do you guys also think we need to offer up some picks with Ben just to offload his contract, similar to what we did with Al Horford?
We definitely cannot package Maxey or Matisse with whatever trades are happening. I think that's a definite big no-no.
I agree with that.
I think a lot of people throw that around willy-nilly. It's like, no, what the hell are you talking about? If you get rid of Ben, you definitely want Maxey in your back pocket.
Well, I feel like we have like 3 or 4 established players and 2. Our farm system is literally 2 players. It's Tyrese Maxey and Thibault, and we can't give up our whole farm.
Well, I mean, if you could do Ben Simmons and Tyrese Maxey for Damian Lillard, I'd do that in a heartbeat.
Like, yeah. Well,
It depends who you're getting.
I mean, at this point,
because that team is not, they're not in a good spot, really. I mean, they're first round and out. Like they're, Dame wants out, or it seems like he does. Like that could be like an interesting thing. But Ben Simmons' stock is so low right now. It's like it's hard to package him with anybody.
And the problem with the Trailblazers is like the Trailblazers have literally like the best they have a historical offense, but also a historically bad defense. So
send Ben.
It doesn't take that's like the big thing is everybody's saying if they get rid of McCollum, they'll like give up some offense, but gain some defense in getting Ben. I just don't think that us receiving McCollum puts us in a better situation.
No, I don't think so either.
I think you're right.
I don't think it does either. So this is definitely not going to happen, but we're just shooting off the hip now. Just for anything at this point, would you give up Ben, Maxey, Thibault for Kawhi?
For Kawhi?
For Kawhi?
Kawhi's not moving. He like.
I know
he's
it's not.
gonna
I
leave
know.
LA.
I know. He's not
Yeah,
going to.
obviously he's not moving, but yeah, that's a
You
no-brainer.
100% do that.
Yeah.
I'm not doing
Yeah.
that.
I would do that.
So he's
What?
not doing that. See, all right.
You're
I'm not giving
insane.
away the whole future for a guy
Little
who's
contradiction.
Championship.
So it's
You'd have to have-
basically
you'd have to have-
trading for one championship, but to give up the future.
Oh no, I would say
Maybe
if
2
you got
championships.
if you could lock up
If he
Kawhi
stays
like
for 1 year,
5
like
years,
he did
then
with
yeah.
Toronto.
But if it's a 1-year deal, then no.
Yeah,
Well,
you have to sign up for a multiple year deal.
Paid out for Toronto. Paid up. Worked out for Toronto.
I wouldn't want a one and done. I
Yeah,
want a
then
team
they
that
get
can win
one fucking
championships.
championship. Have fun with that.
Yeah, but would you?
Championships.
Yeah, but
Yes.
you could.
Going for plural, dude.
But remember when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, a lot of people said, "Oh, if we just win this one, I'll go lose for another 10 years."
That's
Yeah,
not how I feel
about
about this
Eagles
game.
football, but that's not how. It's not how.
What do you mean? Same with all sports, and Philadelphia definitely loves football more than basketball.
Football is also the hardest sport to repeat a championship in. Whereas
Yeah.
like basketball, it's a lot easier.
But hey,
once
I
you
mean,
have a
hey,
squad
guys,
to-
you're saying that, but we haven't won since 1983. So
I understand that, but the whole point of the process was to create a team that could compete
Yeah, well,
for
that's some-
championships
yeah,
for multiple
that's-
years, and that's the
completely
vision that I
separate.
want. It doesn't make sense for me. I wouldn't want to gamble at all for the chance to win a championship when there's such a big chance to not get that championship, and then everything's ruined. You're not going to. I think it's ridiculous to gamble at all for 1 year.
So what if you were guaranteed a title, but only one, and you gave up everything?
No, I wouldn't like that. I would like to have a
Oh,
team that
man.
can compete. I'd rather have a team that could compete for like 8 years, but maybe not win a championship, than a team that could win 1 year and then suck for the next 7.
basically the early 2000s Eagles.
Yes.
So would you say the same?
Yeah.
Would you say the same thing for the Eagles then?
But I would have loved if they won that 2005 Super Bowl and then just sucked for 10 years.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean that would have been perfect in time for them to continue to win the 2017.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys are literally saying take a chance for a team in 8 years rather than a guaranteed title.
I mean, if I want titles. Like titles are just like they're meaningful. Like it's like
Yeah, they
to
mean
have
something,
that-
even if it's 1 year. Obviously, we felt that with obviously it was different. It was their first one, but
Yeah. Will be the first one in our lifetime.
yeah, Sixers would be the first one in our lifetime. So,
But yes, I would rather, like I said,
oh man,
to
I
compete for 8
disagree.
years.
I disagree.
I don't know. It's a tough one, but I think I take the title.
Okay.
I think that's short term. That's a short look, not a long
Yeah,
long term look.
And then you could, but there's also the chance that in those 8 years you get nothing, Jackson. There's
I
also
don't know.
a
I
chance
still
you
have the
get.
excitement of the playoffs.
There's
for 8
also
years.
also the chance. Yeah, I get it. But
Yeah, that's kind of the point I'm looking at. Like the excitement is great. It's just like when it comes crashing down every year. That's
the
almost worse.
disappointment is what sucked. All right, guys, and I think what's also crashing is this pod. So Vacation Flay is about to turn into Sleeper Flay, and Jalen's going to say goodbye for the night. So you saw all the different prompts on the screen. Make sure that you stay engaged and comment on us, on our videos, like you always do. So thanks to the team as always, and we'll catch you guys next week on a very special episode 10, hitting milestones, and this pod is launched and landed.